Hey, John.
Nick, how are you?
I'm all right, but my computer is dreadfully slow.
Oh,
Like,
really?
you know how you pull up Outlook?
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up Outlook to get my mail. It's been an hour. It took an hour for it to open up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The good news is I've got the other one that I can use, but this was took a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah, I wonder if it's I mean, I've found Outlook is just I've got like the Office 365 and it's mine tends to just crash like all the time. Or at least it hangs up. And I basically just have to shut it down and then open it up again and then it's fine.
Yeah, that's this afternoon. At around 2 o'clock, I shut it down so it would be clear so I could work quickly. And
Right.
it hasn't worked. So
That's too bad.
annoying. I don't know. And I'm not sure whether it's the computer or it's my internet or it's, exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Do we have a current copy of the warrant? Did anybody send that? Joe had been working. He was working on it on Monday. Hello, Christina.
Oh, that's a good point, Nick. I forgot about that.
Hello.
Hey, Christina, how are you?
I have to say, that picture of you is it's a very striking picture.
It is, yeah. A good question, Christina. You didn't see a updated copy of the warrant, did you?
Not after, what was it,
Nick-
Monday?
Monday,
Because
yeah.
they never sent one because Nick made a good point because Joe is making changes in real time. We don't have those changes. Like we know
Right.
what they are, but we don't have. You know what? I'm gonna ping him right now and got it. He's probably still there.
I guess you're home today, right, Christina? Not out in the Berkshires.
That's right. Come here. Yeah, at home with the barking dogs.
Our dog barks every time that she hears a truck or someone comes near the driveway. And I start singing down the street, the dogs are barking and the day is getting dark. And when the night starts falling, the dogs will lose their bark.
I don't know that one.
It's a Bob Dylan one.
I should know that. Yeah.
Are you a Bob Dylan fan?
I mean, I like him. It wasn't my time.
Yes, I know.
It was not my youth.
I was thinking yesterday about, I like him very much, and I often listen to him when I'm, just working around, doing things. And I see, there he is. David's just getting on. David, I was just talking about Bob Dylan. I was saying that I like him very much, and I listen to him all the time. And I realized he's younger than David. He's older than David.
I thought you were talking about me, actually.
David, how are you?
You're younger than Bob Dylan?
I'm not sure. At my age, what's the difference?
You're a month younger than he is.
Ah,
Well, maybe 3 weeks.
okay. Well, thank you for keeping track.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and call us to order just because I know Valerie says she gets home right at 6:30. So I know she'll join, and we can, since we're mainly working on the commentary, might as well get started. We'll just note her presence whenever she joins in. So it being 6:35, I'm going to call to order the Finance Advisory Committee. We'll take a roll call attendance, starting with you, Nick.
Nick Tenson here.
Dave Wanger here.
Christina Shank Hargrove here.
And John Prulich here. Valerie McCormick will be joining us shortly, but we'll note her time that she joins the meeting. Seeing no members of the public, we'll move on to item 3, which actually I don't even have the agenda in front of me, but I assume that is the commentary one. Unless anyone or anything related to commentary or warrant articles. I don't know if you did you want to pop up the commentary on the screen, Christina? Does that make the most sense?
Yes.
And while Christina's doing that, I want to apologize to her. I've been inundating her with changes, so I'm sorry about that.
No worries whatsoever. It's all good, except that I didn't make the last changes that David, and Diane sent me one correction. So I'm going to do it right now as we're talking. You guys can see it, right?
Yes, it's half. It's only half the screen. There's your email is the other half. If you can just enlarge it.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me just put this.
Yeah, I think she's trying to
Finish
put the
this.
changes from the email.
And then I'll make it,
yeah.
and then I'll make it bigger. 2 more
Yeah,
changes in
okay.
the last paragraph. Second sentence. In the last paragraph, second sentence, delete for the next fiscal year. And delete has accomplished. On North Shore Vocational School, it should read, is that in 2-2? The North Shore Vocational School, right, John, is in the,
It's in the 2-3. Yeah, it's in the
623. Okay,
oh, good catch, David. Yeah, it had an extra digit and I took out the wrong digit.
that was, that was Diane.
Okay, good. Yeah, because it was she had sent, well, she had caught that one last night. I thought I'd changed it and I even messed up making the changes.
Okay, so here we are, I think. The introduction. Do we need to read through it, or?
Just a small note at the end of, and I don't know if it's been changed, but the end of page 1, the last paragraph says the warrant, which is written, I think it's.
Oh, and adopted. Good catch, Nick.
Got it, thanks.
And then the next paragraph down, the next page, the BOS, I think it's a capital O. The last line
Got it.
towards this article.
Nice.
Minor.
Yeah. So the only other thing in 1, obviously, if there's other comments chime in, is that highlighted section, which really comes to the projection part, which
It's still a work. It's still a work in somewhat progress. So
yeah, and I just, since we're at the deadline. I mean, it's sort of 2 things, and you had raised this in an earlier meeting, David, to think about, which whether attaching that confuses certain matters, but also when I put the latest numbers into it, it starts to tell a slightly different story. and which is fine. I mean, it sort of is what it is, but it's sort of not as grim a story. And in fact, then I actually just right before I sent it out to everyone, which is literally as the meeting was started, I noticed the formula, and the main problem with the formula was that when Marissa originally set it up, it was sort of presuming that all future years were going to have overrides. And if it didn't have an override, anyway, there's something in the formula I have to fix. Or I think my changes to it requires a fix. So that first page doesn't automatically flip from a override to a non-override situation. It's relatively.
You're saying it does? It does automatically do that?
Well, it was supposed to already automatically do that, but I just realized that there was something that was not driven by a formula that was plugged in that was causing it to effectively carry this sort of like $300,000 lag into future years. So certain things that were supposed to go from red to green were not turning green. At any rate, I don't know. I'm less inclined now to stick it as part of the commentary because we're not really, I don't want to throw a bunch of numbers at people without also sort of telling a story. And I'm not exactly sure what the story to tell right now is.
So what if we were to say in place of the highlighted sentence, some reference to the effect that FinCom anticipates completing and publishing a projection intended for public review and comment or something like that?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I was going to say that it is probably in our best interest that we don't just throw something out without having it reviewed with the Board of Selectmen and the finance director to be sure that everybody has not only seen it but understands it, because it is not easy to comprehend.
No, all these things sort of trickle down, and there was also another issue, which that when I put the new numbers in, the debt exclusion number went up, and it's correct what's in there now, but it went up by, that's also what helped us avoid an override, and that I don't think is built into future years. And so I question those at any rate. I mean, I think for all those reasons, and Nick, I think yours is a great point too, that I thought about, like that we really first step with this, I think, is going to the BOS, getting them to understand it. And I think is starting to clarify, which is sort of where our spending levels need to be to, avoid overrides or at least be right on the line. And I think this is going to be a really useful tool. But I think at this point, sticking it on the commentary right now at this stage doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when you do it, when it goes out, some people think it's gospel, and they don't understand.
Well, right, exactly.
There's a lot going on in this meeting, and it is probably something that needs to be introduced by itself with commentary as to what we're trying to do and what and have a lot of caveats, because we know that it's not accurate.
Right.
Can I just suggest, Christina, where you put the phrase about the 5-year, it's followed by the words, please refer to those documents. So, but there won't be the 5-year projection amongst the documents.
Yep. Yeah, the sentence isn't done yet, but
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe we should place it at the end and say, in addition, FinCom,
Gotcha.
something like that.
Creating a 5-year projection.
For
I would probably, and if it's easier to, Christina, I can also just do this really quickly, sort of offline, because it probably shouldn't be in this paragraph now. This is more the ending thing that basically says, read the two documents together, and
or maybe you could put it in your preface.
Yeah.
Um,
That might be good.
yeah, let me come up with basically like 2 sentences and I'll stick it somewhere so it doesn't just seem so sort of abrupt, but somewhere in the preface.
Okay. So I'll just leave a note here.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, if there aren't any more edits to that. Oh, this is the preface.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Sorry.
I think it belongs there. It's almost like you need a little bit somewhere around the 2nd or 3rd paragraph.
Yeah,
But I'll find a way, like I might just add a sentence or two to talking generally about planning and exercises.
yeah. Oh,
Or
you know
either
what? One
that,
thing-
or potentially it could be I could fit it somewhere into 2-3.
That's why I thought we were. That's why. Yeah. Actually, do we have any mention of the master plan in that process?
Not that I remember.
Um,
And should we?
Oh, has our role been determined, John, in that steering committee?
yes, it looks like we will have from the latest email I saw, it implied that we have a seat at the table, but it didn't say anything like legally. So, but that was how I interpreted. I need to confirm that with Joe I didn't see anything specifically, but we were included as one of the 4.
Okay.
I don't know, or maybe we don't mention the 5-year projection now. It's
Let's put it this way. If I can come up with 2 sentences that can logically fit into someplace here, we'll put them in. If we don't mention, it's not the end of the world.
But if you can, I think it would be prospectively helpful.
Well, yeah, if it's not actually in here, it will be mentioned in comments at town meeting.
Okay.
okay.
In fact, I should see what I put in the annual report because I think I mentioned it there.
Oh, there you go.
Did we want to put in 1-3 the list of articles that may be in the consent agenda?
You know, I was just going to say that I didn't put them in because they're in the warrant. It seemed repetitive to me. But
Oh, that's right, they actually are in the warrant. Then I don't think we need to. I think there was one time where the warrant got finished and they didn't put them in, but we knew what they were going to be. We put them in the commentary, but
Then I would just reference the
Warrant.
warrant. Yeah,
yeah.
as outlined in the warrant.
as listed in the warrant.
Yes, that's listed in the warrant.
Perfect.
All right. the compensation and classification table, you know, the last time we did this, there were specific positions that were added and eliminated. And we listed those. But I don't think that's as much the case this time. I'm gonna open the most recent copy of the warrant that we have.
Have we inquired about that? I forget.
Oh, shoot. That's what I wanted to do. Where did that go now? There it is. Have we inquired about it?
I think it'd be nice if we, if such exist, I think it'd be nice if we included the reference. Make a quick inquiry of Joe.
David, what are you trying to do? I'm sorry, I wasn't following that.
If there are upgrades or other changes that are reflected in the compensation classification table, in addition to the cost of living increases, we have previously been specific as to identifying them, I think, or at least last time. And if we can do that, it might be appropriate, or I think it would be appropriate if we can get the information early in the morning to include it.
I mean, that's not something that can be seen by the, like we have the, so the, excuse me, this is the appendix, the wage grid.
Right.
Right. But we don't know if certain positions have been upgraded, or remember last time hours were increased in some.
Right. That's why I didn't. It has seemed to me that there haven't been adjustments like that.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I thought, I can't even remember what because I remember we asked a question on Monday and I can't remember what the answer was. We asked somebody because we wanted to know, like, you know, for example, like, you know, like, is there something in there? Let me pull up be easier. Like for the building commissioner. I mean, really, maybe the compromise, if I can find it, is if we can find last June's warrant appendices. In fact, the easiest way to do that is to go on our website.
Last time in our last book, we had a pretty specific itemization of the changes. Hours, position elimination, reduction in hours, increase in hours, reclassification, position elimination, and then the COLA.
Right, exactly. That's what that's why I brought it up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because
I didn't
because-
notice.
because
Yeah.
I don't have any, it don't seem to have any information this time about any changes like that, although I know in the health department, at least, there's some changes being made, right? Positions being changed, so.
So this is information relevant for public knowledge dealing with compensation classification. How about making a very early morning inquiry and see what that produces?
I'm gonna make a inquiry right now to Diane.
Okay,
She had answered an email about 45 minutes ago, so there's a chance she's still there.
I'm not able to pull up the one from last year easily.
I have the paper version, Christina. It's right next to my phone book.
I mean, does anyone have the one from a year ago, last June?
I have it.
Oh, you do?
I have the paper version.
Oh, gotcha.
I can't, I
You're better
wouldn't.
than I am.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I might. Hold on a second.
It was
A quick
page
scan.
page 3, Nick, of last year.
Just give me a second. Town meeting warrant notes. You talking about ATM or STM?
It was ATM in June.
ATM. Okay, hold on. Okay, budget. I don't have it. Sorry, guys, I don't. Thought I would.
So the warrant is to see if the town will amend the personnel bylaw by adopting changes to the classification and compensation table. And the summary says the table reflects the cost of living increase for settled contracts and non-union employees, et cetera. So, I mean, it doesn't seem to me that Article 2-1 is asking for is referencing anything other than the changes to the classification and compensation table.
So
What we've generally pointed out in the past is like, it's not like we would put anything in there that was in a collective bargaining agreement that was just, a standard increase. It was more when positions were created or changes in those positions that we point out.
yes, the warrant for last June did not include any such itemization, but we did in our book.
Right, because Marissa gave us a list of here are the 5 substantive changes other than
Yeah, right.
collectively bargained, increase. Because what were I can pull it up, but the ones that we mentioned in our commentary last June.
Reduction in hours, elimination of a position, increase in hours, a reclassification, as well as a COLA for non-union and most union, and the addition of 1 position in the fire department. So we itemized all that kind of.
Yeah, and I know we're going to have them because we're going to have building commissioner. That was probably not on it last year. The Board of Health, there were a couple things, and the town clerk, I know the hours went from 37.5 to 40. That should definitely be in there.
But is this, I don't see this in Article 2-1, that this article doesn't talk about hiring people or increasing hours or decreasing hours. It just talks about changing the classification and compensation table in Appendix
Right,
A.
but so it's basically, the warrant basically says, the article is to adopt, Appendix A. And our commentary is telling people what are the substantive changes in Appendix A from the prior year's version.
Right. Which I think is relevant in the public domain.
Right, but so this, so on this page that I have up, there are no changes in this from the prior year. Are there?
I don't
it
know,
has-
Christina. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the problem. We don't have the prior year because they never, it was like a lot of times we don't see it's good this year that they've actually attached the appendices before we finish our commentary, but a lot of times, like, I don't think they did that last June. We didn't see it until actually the paper warrant.
So here is the building commissioner 40 hours,
I see, okay,
but that's a new position.
Right, exactly. Like,
I
if
see,
we look
gotcha,
at the old one, we can probably discern, the 4 or 5 things that there are. No town clerk should have an increase in hours.
okay, now I got it, I see. I understand now. Okay, but you've emailed, John, you emailed Diane,
Yeah, let's hope there's
so,
a quick answer and we can go on and work on other things.
all right, but I'm gonna make a note here that we need to add. Okay,
I mean, in worst case, David, I'm happy to, if you want to put that paper in your mailbox, I can go pick it up and I can compare the two.
Sure. I can even drive it down to your house. Do you live nearby?
It's gonna be a bit of a haul for you, but
I didn't realize your legs were that bad.
and I don't know, David, given that the state of our road right now. Although I get it, did you have it passed at the your end?
Yes, there's some very large stones now.
Who
I tried to
did
put
the
them in the
patching
middle.
at the end?
Yeah, I tried to put them in the middle so our tires wouldn't. I think that's well, never mind. It's a public meeting.
Oh, yeah, no, that's yeah.
so how about we go on and see if we get an answer to that and come back?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think I can coordinate and get the information from David and quickly compare them.
Okay. So the next one is prior year bills. Hopefully we're good on that. 750.
Yeah,
Good to me.
yeah.
2-3 is general town departmental appropriations.
This is quite long.
I got a little carried away.
Well, I didn't know who did it. I'm just saying that as I'm going through it, it's in some parts of it I got lost, and I'm supposed to know this. Specifically when we get
Diane pointed out the 154%. She I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't explain that in the best way possible. But yeah, I mean, do you think we need to? It's certainly a lot of detail.
well, the question is, how much detail do we really need to go into? Yeah, that's essentially what I have a question about. Overall, when you say that you're trying to compare the two budgets between last year and this year because of the change in the COVID, the change. I guess the first question is, in fiscal 21, that budget was reduced by the 1.2 million, right? That's for the school.
The school, yeah, yes, but the assessment didn't change because they forecast a reduction in revenue by 1.2 million, and so then they had to cut costs by 1.2 million of what they were going to do, but the assessment stayed the same. So they reduced revenue by 1.2 million, they reduced costs by 1.2 million, and they assessed us the same thing from their earlier draft.
Yeah, okay.
Cuts were made, but we didn't realize them in terms of, which, and granted, it's from an earlier draft, so it is what it is. But the reality is that they cut positions, they cut things out of the school budget.
So may I make a general comment? In the past, there was criticism that FinCom was not providing enough information in a timely fashion. And we set about to begin and over the years perfect this book of recommendations. So if there's error here, I support error on the volume side rather than otherwise.
I'm fine with that. I mean,
So the information is here for those in the electorate who wish to consume it. And if they find it onerous, they can pass it over. Nick?
I hear you. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to reread it and see if I can find
Well,
out,
that's-
see where I
that's
have whether I have an issue or I don't have an issue. I'm just trying to reread it.
Well, that's just going to confuse you.
Thank you, David. Would it be helpful if somebody just read this?
read it, what do you mean?
To us out loud right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy
I'm
to do that.
I'm reading it to myself right now. I didn't read it closely before. I don't know. To me, hearing someone say things, I can't understand it as well as if I'm reading it myself.
That's so funny,
Okay,
Christina,
okay,
like I'm the
that's
exact
fair.
same way. I'm a very visual learner, so if someone's like, yeah, if I just read this, I could consume a certain amount of it. If someone read it to me, I'd consume like 10% of it.
Yeah, I
It
understand.
just doesn't work for me. It never
I
happens.
happen to be auditory, so it's a.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, and
why-
some people are the
Yeah.
exact opposite. It's really funny how people's brains are wired.
But
But-
keep going then. Then just read it.
We
Okay.
could go through it paragraph by paragraph. So the first paragraph looks back a little bit.
I mean, let's put it this way. I think the way I would look at this is, I agree with David in terms of erring on the side of I'd rather provide too much information than too little. So really, it's in my mind, the key is, are there things in here that they're just confusing the way I've written them, or just wrong too? And then second, once you have all this information, is there a overriding message that has gotten lost that we can potentially make stronger by putting something towards the end that drives it all home?
I think that latter part is a good point, and I don't know yet, but that's a very good point, is to try and synthesize things so that there's at least a paragraph or a chart that simply says, here's what happened.
Right.
Are you guys reading what's on the screen, or are you reading it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading it elsewhere.
That's okay. That's okay. That's good. I just didn't want to move it if you're using it. So.
In the last paragraph of what's on the screen, Christina, is there something there's a little blue marker, yeah, right there. Okay, it's gone now. That's
That's right.
remarkable.
It was an extra period.
So this paragraph is beginning with a few other increases of note.
Mhm.
Should there be a colon there?
Yes.
That's my one substantive contribution.
So is this lowercase then,
I
or
That I
inspectional
don't-
services?
don't remember that rule.
Well, inspectional services, is that a department that should
It
be,
is a department.
Yeah, I think you can certainly capitalize it.
or
So
inspectional
is this
services?
Is this the current final paragraph?
No.
Oh,
Just warm it up, dude.
Oh my gosh. Dude, you taught him well.
That's a classic one.
That's great.
I know you guys are way beyond me, but there's a paragraph, the one, two, I guess it's the fourth paragraph, at the beginning of page 4.
Yeah,
It says on the town side, the total spending was 13 million, which is an increase of 2.6%. This does not include financial reserve transfers, okay? As these amounts will either come from free cash. Oh, the amounts for the financial reserve, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, maybe these
Okay.
transfers. Yeah.
Or from the meals tax?
or represent
Part of the
anticipated.
412 is actually meals tax comes in and then it goes to
HTC.
you say,
CD.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So should
Um,
it be as these transfers will either come from free cash? Is that what we're gonna change it to? Have
Or
we
they
said-
will not. No, I think what you have is okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
keep amounts because yeah, it's transfers and meals
Right.
tax is sort of a transfer, it sort of isn't.
Yeah.
They're not a true indication of town spending or on the subjects.
Okay, now I understand what it says. Sorry, thank you. Increase the town spending.
Does include.
Just since you guys are really reading this, I just got, a specific answer from Diane, but she sent the classification table. So I can take a look right now, and start comparing the two. She sent last year's.
Okay,
So you don't need my.
I do
going
not,
over.
David, but thank you.
You're welcome. It's nice to get credit for not having to do anything.
yeah, so overall, after excluding financial transfers, personnel accounts for 60.8% of the town's operating budget and accounts for $506,649 or 154% of the increase in spending over FY '21, i.e. non-personnel expenses decreased. Can we just
This
leave
is
out
the
the,
problematic one. So
Yeah.
basically, let me I'll put it in plain English for a second. Personnel expenses went up $500,000. the entire town operating budget went up $300,000. So personnel expenses were actually greater than the entire increase because everything other than personnel expenses went down by $200,000.
That's a good way to put it. You just said it.
Why didn't you just say that?
Couldn't we just say something like,
And I'm an oratory reader. Oratory reader.
I object to clarity.
Well, it was one of those things like throughout the whole thing, I kept doing these comparisons and then I, calculate the percent. And I'd done it so many times, I did it in like, it was, 1.54 and I'm like, all right, 154%. And I'm like, a parenthetical to try to explain it, but I think it's a bit of a head scratcher and
can we just say it accounts for the bulk of the increase in spending over FY21?
Well, I think what John just said is that it's not just the bulk, it's also.
it's actually more like it's like if it was just personnel expenses in a sense, like it's actually increasing at a much higher rate than like everything non-personnel actually went down.
Yeah.
And
Accounts for the entire
right,
increase in spending.
more than.
yeah.
It's actually lower because of other cuts.
Right.
Yep. So why don't we just say that?
Well, yeah, another way to put it though is if you want to use percentages, is to say that the personnel costs went up. I don't know, it must have gone up, well, whatever that percentage is, it went up. All other things went down a certain percentage.
Yeah.
Say the increase in personnel costs was offset by reductions in other line items or something like that.
Partially offset, right?
Yes.
But I think the fact that you use those two numbers to say that the personnel costs went up X dollars and the other expenditures went down Y dollars.
Yeah.
That's actually impactful.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think that is the message. And so if you can put in there, Christina, the increase in personnel costs, over FY21 was, 506, whatever the number is. I'll calculate that percent.
And that was offset by a decrease of X percent.
Right.
And where were the decreases? Oh, service.
The main
Okay.
decreases were, most of it was flat. The main decreases were, if you count the master plan, there's 150K there, and capital was lower.
I would say those two things. You want to include what happened, because are those temporary things? Will they come back next year?
Well, I mean,
why I'm
capital in
asking what this
sense,
is.
like capital are both ways. Like capital by its nature is potentially temporary, but you have capital needs every year. So, it's not going to, capital is not going to go to zero. The master plan part is, but yeah, the recurring line items were largely flat.
But remember, Joe sent us in that grouping of appendices a table of where initial amounts had been reduced. There were quite a lot of items in parentheses reflecting reductions.
Well, reductions during this budget process
I think so.
versus, right, but that's not the same as reductions over last year.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Emily Latella.
Right.
So this is kind of a mess here now.
And if it's easier, Christina, like I could also clean this up after because like I know exactly what I sort of want to say right now.
Okay,
If you want to just like highlight that thing, I'll put that on my list.
done.
Yeah, it's basic.
Just put a big yellow mark over it and send it over to you.
Perfect. So I've got that. I've got the thing about the projections.
All right, and here it goes. It explains a little bit more. A few other increases of note, inspectional services, but that's the cost increase is offset.
And now why did that, what happened why did Wenham take a larger chunk of it?
Larger chunk of, I'm sorry, where are we?
The next paragraph, a few other increases of note, inspectional services increased in cost by approximately 8,700 as a result of Hamilton taking on a leadership role in that regard. When you say leadership role, when I first read that, I didn't know what that meant, but
Okay,
but it
and maybe we
means
can
that,
describe it. What it means is in prior years, or at least since we went joint with them, which this has been a small track record. So Wenham was the lead, which means they assess us, they carry the payroll, and we also then paid them like, call it like a handling fee. And it's like a 10% fee for actually, it's like an overhead fee.
The service fee.
That is flip-flopping this year. So the building commissioner, anyone related to it is on our payroll. We now basically send Wenham an assessment, which then goes to our revenue. And they also pay us effectively a handling charge.
Can we say,
So,
go ahead.
so largely the inspectional services on a line item basis on the expense side, it went up by, I think it's went up by something like 138,000 or something like that. But you also took out the fact that we don't have to pay an assessment. So the net difference was that our costs actually only went up by about 8,700. And then Wenham's paying us like, I think it's like $80,000, but then Diane mentioned in her comments that there was something that we have to carry a pension that's probably going to cost us something like $20,000 for like an early retirement. So it's more like we're going to net about 60,000 of revenue. But the bottom line is for us, it was actually a net gain in money by switching inspectional services to us.
net gain in revenue, not in cost.
What's that?
You said here the inspectional services increased by 8,700. Is
Right.
that the net number?
That's the net increase in cost. So it only went up 8,700 from last year, but it actually, in a sense, even though it went up, net dollars, it actually sort of went down in effect. Because there's the revenue that we're getting. I mean, it doesn't, the tax rate is the tax rate, but it's not like the spending is an increase because we're having people on our payroll.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Can I say inspectional services increased in cost by approximately 8,000 as a result of Hamilton taking over administration
Perfect.
of the department?
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
This, however, is more than offset by the revenue increase from Wenham as a result of the changes. Is that good? Does that help?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. So we're right on target.
Yeah, sure.
So the parenthetical, I don't know if anyone remembers, I think Nick, you have DPW, right? The increase was there anything specific commentary wise to add around the $24,000 increase, other than it's just, I couldn't remember if there was specific metrics or anything we wanted to call out.
I think it's you're talking about an increase based solely on the contractual rate change.
Yeah, solely based on the rate change. And
I don't think that should be parenthetical.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted anything else. That's the only, but I think that's fine.
Let me think. I don't think there was anything else.
I don't know, because I didn't know if it was one of those, now like the rates increased via the contract, but then our consumption increased too.
Yes, but there's also the shift from, there have been a number of increases. It's, yeah.
It's sort of a complicated story, and I'm not sure.
Well, it's a three-part story. It's, you've got the recycling, which has gone up. Actually, that's gone down slightly. And, but I think if you
Yeah,
just,
'cause
I think if you just leave it without getting into it.
I agree. This is
Just
the
say
one
an
part because I didn't have the
increase in contractual-
information. I'm like, we'll just leave it at the contract, which
Yeah.
it is. I mean, it's a true statement.
Okay.
So the replacement of police car as an additional 19,000. Likewise, the lease payments for the replacement of an additional. If we lease the vehicles annually, is that what we do, or do we buy them?
We've been buying them up to now. I think this is a new lease.
And then we started doing leases this year. Like we bought one the last year and then we leased one this year.
So
So
it's,
this actually replaces a capital expenditures, right?
Yes, exactly. And that was the earlier version of this. I had it flip-flop with the library. I had it here and the library is really in capital. And it was the fire squad truck that was in capital, as well as a police car that eventually got moved to really just operational lease. So it hits Article 2-3.
For some reason, I thought you'd mentioned capital. Oh, you mentioned capital, but you mentioned capital related to the fact that the capital expenditures went down as part of the budget.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
so this lease, $19,000 lease amount is not in the capital budget, it's in the operating budget. But this is the year that they're doing 2 police cruisers, so one is being purchased
That's right.
and one's being leased. Do we need this about the patent homestead?
I think it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's accurate and helpful to,
Yeah.
it was a question that's been answered. And
Okay.
do we need the phrase which has already been funded? Is it-
It made it clearer to me when I read it.
Okay,
It's okay if I put a comma here in front of your which.
Absolutely. Next paragraph, I do see a blue line. Yeah, there you go.
Is that on the end?
Yeah, exactly.
Overall, the total assessment to the 2 towns was up by 4.4%. So the assessment for Hamilton is 4.9% over last year. And the total assessment to the 2 towns was up by 4%. Is that right?
Yes.
So would you say that the total budget was up 4%? Hamilton's share its share is increasing 4.9 because of the enrollment change.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's it's around 0.9 to 1. So it's,
almost a point, huh?
yeah, it was really like, and it was rounding because I was doing everything to 1 decimal point, but I think it was like 3.99 or something like that. And it was like 4.93 or something like that. So or 4.94. So but it's pretty close to 1%. It's like 0.95 or 0.94.
So in the next paragraph, the last line, the word only. Is that a qualitative judgment?
Where are you?
Where Christina has the blue.
In addition, the North Shore Vocational School Assessment and Debt Service were $259,000 and $25,000 respectively, which in the aggregate represented an increase of 12%. However, given that the North Shore Vocational School represents just over 1% of the total school budget, the total school budget expenses increased only 5%.
Why not just say by 5%? I mean, are we making some judgment that it was good at 5%?
No, it was more the fact that, so Hamilton, the regional school district went up by 4.9%. The vocational went up by 12%. But when you combine the two together, it only goes up by 5% because the vocational is a small portion of that. That's why you might expect, one went up 4.9, the other went up 12%. Wow,
Right.
The total thing go up.
Yeah,
Total is 16%.
Right, yeah.
I am a little concerned by the use of the word only there.
Yeah.
If we were to say the total school budget expense increased by, or however, the total school budget increased by.
Or the net of the two?
I mean, yeah, I don't feel strongly about the only.
So this, I think, will
I just do the main point. I don't want anyone to come away with like, with a vocational school is actually much worse than, the regional school district in a sense. And yeah, if you look at the percentages, it was, but it's such a small amount that there's so much more variability there.
You say, however, given the proportion of cost, the total school budget increased by 5%, or
Sure.
does that get you where you?
Oh, that totally does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the beginning part of that sentence actually, says, does a lot of the work. So that's fine.
Somebody doesn't agree.
So I think this is going to be hard for people because it was hard for me just now, even though I know these things. So Hamilton's assessment went up 4.9%.
Yep.
The HWRSD assessment to the two towns together went up 4%. And now the total school budget expenses increased by 5% over last year. So is this 5% is including North Shore Vocational School?
Vocational, yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if a little table here would be good. Repeating those.
Oh, that's a good point. So basically having the percentages. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Like I could do another column here that was like in percentage increase over FY21.
Well, actually, if you're going to do that, I think, what's this next place where it says the breakout? Is that 21 million, is that for the total budget or is that just Hamilton's share?
That's just our share. So it will be those 4.9 in those numbers.
And you have prior years?
Yeah.
So if you have prior years, you can do the percentage change.
Yeah.
I don't want to add additional percentages. I don't think.
Well, I think Nick's just saying you would have leftmost column would be FY 21, rightmost would be FY 22, and then percent change. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what we're looking for, is a percent change for
Yeah.
the total. And
Yeah.
anyway, and that way it's easier for people to say, okay, so here's what the percent is. This is the dollar amount. Shoot.
Right, they're gonna see a lot bigger dollar amount, and like North Shore Vocational went up by, like 20,000. Well, not a little more than that, but
I'm just writing this down for myself here.
okay. I mean, if you
The chart summarizes
you
it.
put
I
a
think
little
that's the way to do it.
table in there, Christina, I can fill in the numbers. Like it's,
Yeah,
they're right in front of me right now.
okay.
So looking at that chart, the school budget went up 4.9%, you said, something like that?
Hamilton's
Yeah.
share of the school budget increase.
Yeah, and the breakout is
And
only
the
looking at it from
debt-
Hamilton's
The
perspective.
debt service did it go up or go down or stay the same?
It, I believe it stayed the same because there's no debt, but let me confirm that.
You have here Hamilton Regional Debt Service was 370,000.
Yeah, I know, I just need to see the,
Prior year.
oh no, it did, it went up actually very significantly. And granted, this is something else that throws the numbers off because I was combining the two together, but it went up by like $107,000. But once again, it's such a small piece of the pie that that's not the main reason for the, increase in, it's part of it. I mean, maybe it's 10% of the, maybe 0.5%.
Okay, and then of course you take all four of those numbers and total them. And then you'll see what the total increase is on our budget, right?
Yep.
Do you want to tell me what the columns are going to be now? Like the first one will be
Yeah,
just
so
the words.
I would say basically FY 21.
Won't we have the words and then the amount?
Yeah,
and
I'm
then-
sorry, the word, yeah, the actual word, the items. I didn't know if you wanted the top columns.
Yep.
Column title.
Yeah, so the title would be, so that second, like the first one on the left is where you're going to put the specific line items. Maybe it's, and then that would be FY 21.
And then are we going to do FY 22
Yep.
and then percentage?
Either do, dollar
Do
increase.
you want dollar change and then percentage or just?
If we've got enough room, maybe we could always lose that and just do the percentage change and people can look at it and do the math in their head, but.
Mhm.
But do you want these numbers to be in there also?
Yeah,
They
so
would be
those
under
would,
21.
those would be under.
Excuse me,
21.
22.
Oh, those. would
I'm
be
sorry,
separate.
22. Yeah, you're right.
Where are we? Where are you? Wait, where did I take this one from?
You took it from the North Shore Vocational.
North Shore Vocational. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right. No, that goes down to the next one. Can you widen that first column?
Yeah. I'll adjust this. Sizes.
You can get it just one. Yeah, there we go. That's best.
I think this can be small because that's just going to be a percentage.
Actually, you can put a, for that percentage, you can just put the symbol percent change, and that would bring everything down one. The title of the last column.
Yep. So there's that. What am I doing?
You want me to give you the numbers on the FY?
Sure, if you have them.
Yep. It's 20,227,833.
Okay.
263,904.
263,904. Okay.
229,890
Okay.
and 23,634. And now if I can give you percent changes too, because these the good news, I can pull them right out of the our forecast.
Okay.
4.5%, 40.5%, 12.9%, 0.1%.
Oh, you know what we forgot is the totals.
Right on the
Yeah, that's right. Another column.
and that, Christina, that was 8.1%.
That won't sum, will it?
No.
No, I can sum it for you though. Actually, I can give you the dollar changes. All right, 903,503.
Yeah.
106,944. 106,944.
Yep.
29,733. And 1912.
Just 1912.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1,912.
Okey doke.
And then totals. 20,745,000.
Sorry, 20,700.
745.
Yeah.
261.
Okay.
And then 21,787. 353.
So it's over $1 million.
And then Oh, so yeah, hold on. That would be 1,042,092. And then 5.0.
Okay. I think that's good. That helps.
Yeah,
I think, what happens if I make all that?
and maybe change just because they're all positive. We change dollar change just to increase.
A little bit easier to read if they're, oh, aren't these supposed to be lined up on the left? That's what I was doing.
You want to try doing it in a, whatever you right justify it.
Right, justify it. It's very
Right,
like, yeah,
Yeah,
that lines it
like
up.
that. Yeah.
It lines it up.
It's very mathy. how they
Can you
line
highlight
up.
the total line? Bold it or something,
Yeah, bold it or shade it.
whichever you wish, just somehow highlighting it, making it prominent.
yeah,
I think I'll bold it because it'll take me too long.
yeah, just
Where to-
Control B, we're done. Perfect.
Okay,
Oh, of course, there's,
That synthesizes.
I mean, it is what it
I like
is.
that because it synthesizes what you're saying, you know, about the why different things have changed.
Actually, could you change the hold on a second. Because I was getting those numbers from the our forecast, which there's like a rounding thing, which has it off by like $1.
Mhm.
I'd love for the 903,503. Maybe we just change it in the paragraph below. I just want those numbers to be the same.
oh, down here.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do it. We might be off, because I don't think we use that.
After netting out debt service, the school operating assessment increased by. Yeah, I mean, it's just
Yeah, I
complicated.
mean,
It's
yeah,
just-
the math is right there. So I don't even know why it was 502. So perfect. 259, 623 agrees with the paragraph above it. Perfect. All right, good.
And so and then you're saying that 177 is due to the enrollment shift.
Yep.
So the assessment increased by 4.5%. But some of that was due to the enrollment shift.
Right.
Now you've got the 1.7, which is the two towns together.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and that's always why like these things are just gets so confusing because it's hard to, you don't talk about line items on an individual town basis because it's all is what the total cost is. But then the bottom line total always gets reported as an assessment.
John, the prediction for the fiscal 22 revenue restoration to pre-pandemic levels, that's From where? Revenue is largely projected to increase to pre-pandemic levels in fiscal '22. Middle of that paragraph. That begins after netting out. Yeah, right there.
Let me check my math. Let me check my math on that.
I mean, is that from the school budget? That's what they're,
Yeah, let me make sure my analysis was correct. Like that line wasn't from the school budget, but I think I looked at the revenue but let me make, it's worth double checking.
But if that's so, why don't we attribute that according to the district?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, if it's, I mean, all of this stuff all the revenue stuff is projected according to the district, which is, I think we fine to make that attribution. I just want to make sure it's correct.
Did we make that attribution?
I can add that here.
Yeah,
So let me see. While revenue and other offsets increased by approximately $511,000 as the district is projecting revenue to increase to pre-pandemic levels in FY22.
Okay.
It should also be noted that the projected decline in revenue for FY21 is not expected to be as severe as first anticipated. However,
yeah, so
delay.
tell me if you think this is correct. So like the school budget, basically 20 actuals, the revenues were 4.239 million. And they're projecting FY22 4.142 million. So not quite, but close. Chapter 70 state aid, 3.714 million, 3.715 million in FY22. So that's definitely pre-pandemic.
Right. I wasn't questioning that. I just wanted the attribution. To be
Okay,
clear.
yeah. No, but I was actually questioning my own. I wanted to make sure that was a correct statement before.
Yeah. Right.
And I would say we might want to qualify it with, where's the wording I use? Because it's not quite, it's to maybe just say increase to close to pre-pandemic levels in FY22.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do we take out 1, 2 and just say increase close to pre-pandemic levels? Does that work or no?
So, as the district is projecting revenue to increase close to pre-pandemic levels, increase.
Or you could say projecting FY22 revenue to increase to close to pre-pandemic levels.
Okay, never mind.
Oops. To increase. Or
Yeah.
we could say it
Yeah.
to instead of increase, projecting FY22 revenue to
return to
or to reach pre-pandemic. But it's not quite reach.
Yeah.
To approach pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Like it.
Much better.
Much better.
takes a lawyer.
There were 3 2s in a row and I didn't. I've always been told to take out prepositions.
Yeah.
Where was I? John, in the discussion here of the surplus is going into the deficit, excesses and deficiencies. Isn't that available for use in the budget?
Not in FY22. It won't be until FY23 because they don't know what the surplus is until the end of FY21.
Got it.
Then
Yeah.
it enters E&D, and then next year it's available.
Yes, but it is available. It's just not till next year.
Right, well, it'll either be available, or if it's high enough, I believe, like, they have to just give it back to the two towns. Like, immediately it's refunded.
I don't, but yeah, if it exceeds a certain level, a percentage, I
Yeah.
think that's when they do it.
Right,
Right,
And you know damn well it's not going to exceed a certain level because they're not going to let it.
right.
probably, I don't know, like, this one's a pretty big one, so I haven't seen it preliminarily, but I think this one's a little harder to finesse, but I could be. Let's just put it this, like everybody's ears are perked up, so like if they can't just increase expenses now to, like, decrease the surplus, to keep it under that. Anyway, well, that's I believe how it works.
Could we just look at the last phrase of that last sentence? Or be returned directly to the two towns? Is that modified by the word "not" before that, or is it?
In accordance with ordinary budgeting procedures, there is a delayed effect of such surplus in that it will not be available as an excess deficiency funding source until FY '23, or be returned directly to the two towns if it exceeds a certain agreed threshold until certified in FY '22.
If that's clear to everybody, then fine. I'm not sure. It will not be returned directly to the towns.
Nor be returned, isn't it?
Uh,
How about this? It will not
yeah, you're right, Nick.
be, it will not be available. Oh. I was gonna say it will not be available in FY '23 when it could be an excess and deficiency funding source or be returned directly to the two towns.
When the, no, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. When
I was gonna say when it will be,
it is available as an excess and deficiency or be returned to the town.
I mean, what would, when it's declared an excess and deficiency, is that what happens? Is it declared, or is it, how does it become?
Well, I think it's just if the surplus is over a certain amount, then they have to return it. If it's not, it's just automatically. I think it becomes, I don't know, maybe it's certified, actually. Maybe that's the word.
Does that work? There's a delayed effect of such surplus in that it will not be available until FY '23 when it is certified an excess and deficiency funding source, or if it exceeds a certain agreed threshold, it is returned directly to the two towns.
See, but now you got because here's the issue. It's like, it's either they don't know until the school year ends. So basically, whatever, a couple months after the beginning of FY '22 in like August or whenever they certify their year end. If it's above a certain amount, they return it. So in that sense, you do get it back in FY '22.
Yeah.
It just doesn't affect your FY '22 budget because you've already passed your FY '22 budget.
Yeah.
If they don't return it, then they can use it for a future year budget as excess and deficiency.
Yeah.
So
Maybe the way to describe it is it will be either declared certified as an E&D or returned to the two towns, early in FY '22, making it available for FY '23 budgeting. Because that's the reality.
You would say, in accordance with ordinary budgeting procedures, there's a delayed effect. There's a delay in the availability of any such surplus.
Yeah.
Is there a new sentence then?
You know, maybe it's until of any such surplus, and then you could probably say until, you know, it is certified in FY '22.
I'm assuming, John, you don't want to say, as a practical matter, there won't be any because they'll spend it.
That might be deemed inflammatory.
Well, I think it may be more appropriate to imply that it's going to be looked at. You know, the spending will be looked at to see how it is used.
So do you want to leave it at it's until it is certified in FY '22?
Yeah,
do you wanna
I would
add
leave it
then-
there and then maybe add a sentence that says something to the effect of, it should, however, have an impact on the FY '23 budget. Any surplus should have an effect on the FY '23 budget.
Or the impact is to be determined. Or-
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the choice of decreasing their, keeping their increase smaller and or holding on to it.
Yes, it's within their control, I think.
Until it gets a certain threshold. Right,
3%.
right.
But I think we're saying they can control the occurrence of that objective.
They'll manage it.
So we want to put a period after fiscal '22.
Yeah,
And then the impact of any surplus.
For fiscal '23 will be determined. Or
yeah.
something like that.
I agree, like it's not clear how it's sort of, it becomes in play. But
So we're leaving out the clause that says it will be either it'll either be E&D or return directly to the two towns if it exceeds a certain agreed threshold. Oops, delete. So this right now, we don't have in there anymore.
yeah, I mean, you guys, what do you feel? Do you feel like we need an extra explanation? I mean, if we do, we could put a parenthetical after FY '22 in that prior sentence saying, you know, either as E&D or return to the two towns. I don't think we need to go into great, maybe there's just too much detail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
should we just take it out?
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
make it shorter.
Yeah.
We're just checking in accordance with ordinary budgeting procedures. There's a delay in the availability of any such surplus until after it is certified in FY '22. The impact of any surplus on the fiscal FY '23 budget.
Will be on the fiscal '23 budget.
I'd probably just take out will be. Impact of any surplus on the FY '23 budget.
So I'll put a comma after fiscal '22, the impact of any surplus and for fiscal '23 to be determined.
I would do it as a separate sentence just because I just feel like it's a little clearer.
Yeah.
Because
I
that
agree.
this prior sentence is sort of long.
Will be determined. That's kind of vague.
Impact of any surplus.
It's actually the impact on the fiscal 23 budget.
Right, exactly.
Budget. It is to be determined. I mean, that's will be determined.
And,
Kind of
Yeah.
raises the question to me, like, by whom? And
and maybe just
When?
will be
What?
determined next year. I mean, it's, I think it throws it out there as in play.
okay. All right with everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Regarding the increase in the school operations spending, over half of this
I think that's nicely put.
I thought you did it well, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm envisioning some headless administrators.
Off with their heads.
I like the way you've put this in terms of what I like is the fact that you've recognized that they've been more nuanced than simply adding back positions.
Right, exactly.
We often, we usually criticize them for, just adding head count. But here we've talked about the fact that some of this is related to investment, not into the administrative assistants. They have fewer heads.
Oh, in that paragraph with the highlighted,
Mhm.
so they were at 15 of the 21. But then what I can't remember, and I don't know if you remember, Christina, when they reduced their budget, some of it was operational expense reduce. Did they eliminate one of those heads? Do you remember?
I feel like they did.
I think they did, but I'm not sure it was. So I'm like, well, maybe I don't go with, maybe I just say approximately.
Yeah. Wait. So you're talking about when they came back with the additional cut?
Yeah, I thought it did. I thought part of that, some of it was revenue, but I thought some of that was maybe one head. I just can't remember.
So are you just questioning whether 15 is correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to use, but I didn't feel confident enough to put 14 because I wasn't sure that they actually might still be 15.
Let's just put in approximately 15 of the 21.
Approximately 15 or approximately 3/4.
I'd probably go approximately 3/4.
Well, if you go 3, yeah, the problem I see with 3/4, it gives you no basis. Oh, I see. You're gonna put
Three
three-quarters
quarters
of
of the 21.
Of
Yeah.
the 21. I see. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. As long as you have a basis.
All right, I like that. Overall, what this article.
In the next sentence, you want to put a period after assistance?
After which sentence now?
A conscious decision was made.
Which paragraph are you in? Are you still up here where we were at the three-quarters of
Yes.
the FTEs? Conscious
Yes.
decision? So where are you looking for one?
A conscious decision was made to replace positions with lower cost alternatives and to creatively provide additional administrative assistance, period.
Or you want to take out the with fewer heads?
Well, I like it because it envisions people running around without, could say smaller heads.
Just change it to bodies.
That's good. I say we keep the fewer heads.
Okay, I'm with you.
I'm fine with it too, yeah.
The Monty Python image.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if we could put in parentheticals and bodies, fewer heads and bodies. Just so it's clear.
Are we on the next paragraph or finish that one?
I think we're good.
Yep,
The second sentence in the next paragraph, while only a small amount of the total liability.
is approaching.
Yeah, I think if we simply say that it's the total liability is 4 million, and this is the first step in building a meaningful OPEB fund. Instead of trying to,
Why don't we say it's an encouraging first step?
Sure.
So Nick, you're saying to change this first phrase?
yeah, while only a small amount of the total liability, simply say the total liability is 40 million, and this is an important first step or encouraging first step.
So in the prior sentence, liability currently estimated at 40 million, period. This is an encouraging first step.
Finally, the HW does include 100 as a set aside to fund includes other.
Liability
Which
currently
is-
estimated at 40 million.
Estimated at or approaching?
Whichever you're most comfortable with.
John will have to tell us, is it approaching 40 million
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what he has.
or close to 40 million?
Okay.
Well, yeah, although I think I got that from your commentary, like a year ago, David. Specific
I
amount.
was making it up. I don't.
Okay, I was gonna say, well, it was good enough for me. That's why.
No, I got it from what's his name?
Yeah.
The second in command,
Vinny.
Vinny. Yeah, thank you.
Finally, the HWRRSD does include $100,000 as a set aside to fund the school's other post-employment benefits liability, which is currently approaching 40 million. This is a small but encouraging first step.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
This is a small but encouraging first step in building a meaningful open fund, and we applaud the decision. blah, 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 ultimately. I like the next paragraph too. I think that's good. Overall. Impact and losses to funds. Everybody okay with that next paragraph,
Yeah.
although the overall budget
Yes, I am.
and then overall,
So this would be this last paragraph would be the place for a generic view if it's necessary.
Right.
I have a question for you. The goal there, you said it's not as high as originally asked, were enough for the towns to meet their goal. Both towns?
Oh, do I have lowercase towns?
Yes.
I mean,
Second to last
it's-
question. My question really was in terms of enough for the towns to meet their goals. Was it plural?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, definitely.
But did both towns meet their goals?
I mean, I was using it loosely, and I think it's probably in the sense of the goals of avoiding overrides.
Both towns, that's what I meant, is both towns
Yeah,
completed?
yes, yeah.
That's all, I was just confirming that, okay, and
Yes.
then I would put the word, just an S on it, goals.
okay.
I think it's very well done, John.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you guys taking a look at this to rein me in and
There's not much to take
But-
out. Anything you're still
This
working
next-
on?
This next paragraph, when it says the overall, while the articles deal with the authorizing the budgetary spending implicit in the budget, is the level of revenue the town expects to receive. So it's not what the school expects to receive, but this is the total town revenue we're talking about.
yes,
As the revenue impact and loss of state funds was not as dramatic.
Increased by 15.7% over last year's budget, right?
yeah, there's something missing at the end, right? It's revenue impact.
No, instead it's expected to stay relatively constant. Is it local receipts revenue is projected to increase
Yes,
or is projected at an increase of 15.7% over last year? Is projected.
John, the first sentence, but there are limitations on how much the tax levy can be used.
We're on the previous one, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But David, would it be how much of the tax levy can be used?
Or Is there a limitation on the use of the tax levy, or there's a limitation on the tax burden?
I would meant more in sort of Prop 2.5. Like you can only tax so much. I mean, because then
There are limitations on relying upon the property tax, period. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of gets you the same place too, yeah. And that's probably, yeah, I think I like that better. The limitations on the use of, property taxes to fund a town's budget.
Right, that's what I was.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying what I was trying to say in that first sentence.
What I'm seeing is on the previous paragraph, just finishing it up,
Yeah.
the change in the rate that we have there is 2%. Is that correct? Instead of 2.5?
Where's the 2%?
From the 1751 to,
No, but I'm sorry, where's the 2.5%?
there is no 2.5%. That's why, that's only 2%, right?
Yes, the tax rate went up 2%.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just confirming, is what I'm doing is I'm confirming that it's a 2% increase. That's why we didn't, and therefore we didn't reach the 2.5%.
I think that's right. Directionally, I'm not sure, because it's 2.5% is, yeah, I guess it's the amount of levy. So yeah, probably. Just trying to think with like debt exclusions and things like that. But I think that's probably right. There's such a sort of backwards calculation they use to get to the tax rate.
Yeah.
But I think that's right. Although no, see, it's not quite right because, for example, our unused capacity, like if we had no unused capacity, we would have had to have an override, right? Because our unused capacity went down slightly. Not much, didn't exhaust it. So it went down from like 300,000 to like 200,000. So that would then mean let me think this through. Spending was slightly greater than the.
What are you wrestling with, John?
Well, I'm wrestling at how the actual unused capacity figures into this percent increase.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that 1751 and the 1786, and that's a difference of 35 cents, which is almost exactly 22% increase.
Yeah, so I mean, it's clearly like, yeah, the tax rate went up 2%, but
But the 2.5% statutory measure doesn't relate to the tax rate.
well, no, well, exactly. That's what I'm saying is I think if you had a ton of unused capacity, you could increase the tax rate. You could spend a lot more and increase the tax rate, I believe, above 2.5%.
Yeah,
Right.
and you still wouldn't have a problem. Yeah.
I think mathematically they converge at 0. So if you have no unused capacity, they would be exactly equal. That your change in the tax rate would be the same as the change in the levy, or what you can levy.
So the measure of the capacity is the 2.5 plus new growth plus
Right.
non-tax revenue. So what are we stuck on here?
Nothing. It was just a question on my part is that a 2% increase? Yes, it is a 2% increase. And I thought it related to the 2.5, but it doesn't.
I mean, in some sense it does. I think when you have no capacity, it's pretty close to that. It's just when you have a lot of unused capacity, it's not necessarily indicative of what they sort of diverge.
Mhm.
That's the sort of nuance.
Actually, it's very pleasing to see it's only 1786.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, this is, several months ago, we were looking low 18s. Not even, so this is encouraging.
Right,
But-
and the-
But just generally, I'm concerned about it at what cost in terms of the non-school side of the equation. But that's a discussion for later.
Right.
So are we on to the, but there are limitations paragraph?
I think so.
John, is there any way to focus on this, the sentence that begins, however, spending in the last 4 years? Is there any way to, yes, that sentence, is there any way to identify the significant, that is, what I'm getting at is the town has reduced its budget for 21, and I think prior immediate years within the 4-year span, we weren't particularly aggressive, while the school was well in excess. Any of you have an appetite for focusing more precisely on that sentence about the spending causation?
I'm trying to pull up that slide that was in
Something like, however, spending in the last 4 years, comma, especially by the schools, comma, has resulted in this excess capacity being all but eliminated.
Yeah, I'd like some reference to, assuming you all agree it's an accurate attribution, I would like some reference.
I mean, here's the, oh wait, no, our share of the assessment. Excluding reserves.
See, I'm generally concerned, folks, that we have continued to reduce our level of spending. And the school, which is what in excess of 60% of our total, has gone up. Especially,
I mean, I think it's a fair, it's a fair statement. We certainly, and it all depends on like where you draw it. And really, since we're making we're drawing the line at FY 2018, certainly since then, school spending on average has been higher on a percentage basis and obviously on a dollar basis.
and for 21, it was remarkably disparate.
Oh, yeah, no, it was. So that's why I think a generalized sentence like that is certainly appropriate.
So whatever you're all comfortable with, as long as we just get that theme.
Yeah. What had you proposed, Christina? It sounded,
Well, I was just asking if that's what the kind of thing David was talking about. I would say, I was going to say here, however, spending in the last 4 years, especially by the schools, has resulted in this excess capacity.
Well,
It's a little harsh, a little direct.
is there some way to be even harsher to say that the town has made a deliberate efforts to reduce its spending, whereas the district has blah, blah, blah.
Well, the problem is that if you look at the last sentence in the paragraph, while we're encouraged by the progress being made on both the town and the school side.
Right, I haven't gotten there yet. I understand.
It sort of tempers it, but it contradicts it, in fact.
Right, I think that has to be changed a bit when we get to it. I think it's fair comment to say that the town has made a conscious effort to reduce year-to-year spending, and the district has not. In recent years, the town has made a conscious effort to reduce its year-to-year budget in contradistinction to the district, something. I don't think we should be bashful about setting out what is in fact.
John, what are you thinking?
yeah, I mean,
The first question that comes to my mind is what has been the increase in the town budget, and what has been the increase in the school budget?
well, I mean, and this is why I'm looking at that. Marissa did this in that spreadsheet that it was right before February 10th. And it, look, is a generalized statement. It's definitely true that like, you know, school spending has been on average above, you know, town spending. It depends on if you look at it percentage wise. But a lot of times, like the years can be drastically different. Like, for example, 21 clearly, like, we cut and they cut from a really huge increase. But like the year before, you know, school went up, well, their expenditures went up about 2.8%. Our assessment, it looks like, went up 3.9%. Whereas the town spending actually went up 6.9%.
So when you look at those numbers, it becomes problematic. I mean, to say that the town has been done better than the schools.
Yeah, and on average it has, but it's not like, for example, right now, like it's like we're sort of saying like we can't be at like 3% town side, 5% school side. It's just not sustainable because it's like you're always going to be above 2.5%. But you know, if you look at, you know, over the last, like, since like FY 2016, and unfortunately she doesn't have like a CAGR here, but like the town side was, you know, like 5.2, 5.4, then a 2.2, then a 6.9, then a negative 0.6. And the school was 3.2, 3.2, 5.3, 2.8, 5.9, and then 5% this year. So it's
So
true they've been higher, but it's not like year in, year out. It's not always the case. And the town also is not necessarily always below 2.5%.
remember, the schools are 60% of our budget, so I don't know how to accommodate for that arithmetic proportion. All I'm suggesting is, through your good efforts and Christina's, relationships have improved. The town moderated, the school district moderated its position somewhat, not to what we were asking, but progress has been made. But I think it's an accurate cautionary theme to suggest that we need to continue to to be circumspect. The schools need to be circumspect. The town has demonstrated that in terms of its budget, at least in fiscal 21 and 22, whereas the schools are continuing to support increases beyond what the town has done. That's the theme. I think FinCom has some responsibility for alerting the public to.
John, let me ask us another question. If we were at our limit, anything over 2% on a budget would then put us into a tax levy, into an override. We'd have to vote on an override. But we're not quite there yet. But no, I'm sorry. What I was going to say was that it would be 2.5% increase, but it's also tempered by the amount that the property values go up, correct?
Yes.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Part of what I think what I'm thinking about here is we need to educate our public as well, because this idea of Proposition 2.5 is not easy to understand. But can we put it in easier terms so that people understand that it's really a combination of increased budget and property value? It's those two things combined, which really are the drivers on whether we reach that 2.5% or not. And if we go, and we can go a little bit over the 2.5, but only to the limit of whatever our property values increase.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And the reason I'm saying it in this paragraph is I think that is part of an education, and part of it also reinforces what David is saying, that we need to keep those budgets in line with 2.5% in order for us not to be pushing over that, or 3%, not to be pushing over that Prop 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the point I'm sort of trying to make, is that we're out of unused capacity. So then, yeah, there's some nuances, but at any time your budget level is above 2.5%, it's going to be problematic going forward. And
Sorry, we avoided that cliff for fiscal 22 by a combination of the school reducing and are reducing. But the school reduction still results in an increase in their budget well beyond the town budget increase. How many years going forward can the town continue to reduce its budget?
Yeah, right now, no.
yeah, no,
Not
I mean,
really. Yeah.
exactly. I think it's, I mean, that's part of the forecasting, is we will know where, the budget level, in terms of like the school, their increase has got to be. That's why like the whole collective bargaining agreement is so important.
Right.
As anything north of 3 is problematic for the schools.
So Nick, I have no difficulty at all educating the public however we can in terms of the intricacies of Prop 2.5. That's not necessarily inconsistent with the theme that I'm asking if you all support or not.
So I think in that sentence we were talking about spending in the last 4 years has resulted in this excess capacity being all but eliminated. I think, so this is talking about the excess capacity. You know, John is saying that, pointing out that you can bank the excess capacity, and we had excess, but that's pretty much gone.
And actually, Nick, to an earlier point, and I'm sorry, you know what, finish what you were going to say, Christina.
No, go ahead.
Actually, I'm looking at the model, and sorry for confirming something. I think it's actually not the case that property values help you with Prop 2.5. I think it's actually the opposite. I mean, I'm sorry, they don't hurt you, but property values can lower the
Tax rate.
But what you actually can levy against the town is limited by that 2.5%.
Right. That is, the tax rate can go down
Right.
because property values go up.
Exactly. All
But,
things being equal.
but you're still aiming for the same pot of money,
Right.
the same levy.
Exactly.
Oh, that's right. But what's added to the levy limit is new growth, not
New
Yes.
increase,
growth, right.
not increase in property values. Which John does have in there, although
Right.
there are nuances. New growth is added to this levy limit.
So we were just focusing on that however sentence.
Yeah. And I decided I don't like adding, in there something about pointing the fingers at the school right there, because all it's trying to do is to explain about that there was an excess levy capacity, and we basically don't have one now. Well, we have the 226,000.
But Christina, isn't that because the school has spent in excess of what the town has?
Well, if you go back and look at the percentage increases, it's not the case that the percentage increase of the school has always been more than the percentage increase of the town.
Yeah, I don't have the chart in front of me, and we do know that for fiscal 21 and the apparent fiscal 22 figures, the schools are going up and the town is not.
Right. So, but this is talking in the last 4 years.
No, I understand. So
The excess capacity being.
So I don't have in front of me, or nor do I have the mental capacity to see the last 4 years. But we certainly know the past year and the current, the anticipated year. What I'm saying is accurate.
Yes, but that's cherry picking. That's not what we want to do here. I think the thing that we want to do is, I appreciate where you're going, but I think it's for both and school that needs to, it's actually for the whole, for our constituency to know what it is that's driving this cliff that we're coming to. And I keep going back to this, how can we show, and I'm thinking mentally what I'm trying to say is we have an excess capacity, we have a budget increase, we have an excess capacity which is being eaten away, and we have growth which helps offset that. And there's two things involved here. One is, I think we need to say, obviously, that the budgets need to stay within line, and I think John is saying that in here. But I think there's something else happening, and I like to just, there is something else happening in town, and I'd like the town to be aware of it, is that we have an opportunity to get a new development in by Meadowbrook with 50 homes and approximately 750,000 in new tax base. That's part of the growth. There's a big opposition to that. And if we're gonna see a big opposition to something like that growth, we either have to be worried about our budget increases, which is what we're talking about, because we've already seen that the excess capacity has dropped over the last several years. And if we could, again, I like seeing this in charts, and so we could see how the three weave together, and show that we've got a decrease in that excess capacity, show that the budgets have been too large and have been driving that, and that growth hasn't been there at all to offset any of it. And that tell people that budgets or growth are the only thing that we can deal with here, because we're losing out on our excess capacity.
Right, and I have no problem with emphasizing both themes. But I think we have a responsibility to target the cause of this disproportion between, and that is comparing the town budget versus school. So Christina says, well, if we're going back 4 years, it's not as blatant. That doesn't water down my message. If we narrow that time frame to fiscal 21 and what we're advocating for 22, that disproportion exists. And I'm in favor of expressing that causation and caution. And then I have no problem at all emphasizing the need for budgetary constraint plus revenue enhancement, such as the projected development that Nick is talking about. But I don't want to, look, this is Thursday night. We need to finish this. If I am in the minority, then I'll shut up.
Well, I have one suggestion. And so my point was more that it doesn't fit in that sentence that you were trying to fit it in, but maybe it fits in the last sentence where it says we're encouraged by the process being made on both town and school side. Maybe we can split it out a little bit more there. And say that, you know, the town last year, this year has whatever, however we want to say it, has done a good job, however we want to say that. And then, you know, while we're encouraged by the progress made on the school side, you know, the increases of this percent and that percent are not sustainable, something like that. Does that?
Whatever the majority of you are comfortable with. I don't want to keep boring you with my repetitive angst. I mean, we're debating because the sentence began in the 4-year context, the previous sentence set the time context for fiscal 18 budget, 2.9 million. If we said the fiscal 21 budget was X, and it depends where you begin the assessment, the analysis.
Right, but I think the whole thing right there, he's talking about how we had excess levy capacity, and I know they're connected, but I don't think that's the place to point out that in the past, I think we're talking about what the school did last year and what the school is doing this year and going forward is better at low.
I agree, that's the emphasis.
You know, when one thing, and I think that is the emphasis. I mean, you certainly could, you know, and I'm actually looking at the numbers and assuming these are correct that are in the projection model. But if you look at the CAGRs, effectively the compounded annual growth rates over the last 4 years, school is, this is total school, like Hamilton, Wenham, and the vocational and all that rolled into one, the total school assessments is 5.4% and the town is 3.4%. So you could include those without additional commentary. It shows the disparity. It also shows we're both above 2.5%.
Right.
Really that's really what has caused the loss of the 2.9 million in levy capacity.
I really like that because it's a very factual number, and it is talks about it over the same period of time as the excess capacity diminishing, and I think that's a very good point, and I like the way you did that.
Um,
Again, I think the place is there a way of making that a chart or a graph or something that allows people to see it visually?
I mean, isn't that what your 5-year projection is, that whole huge thing? That's,
Yeah, this is just one piece of it because it's not projecting. It's really just, it's looking at, really, it's just looking at the school operating and town operating expenses in FY22 and FY18, and then you annualize that to a annual growth rate. We could make a chart out of it.
I think it's too much that we have all this pages and pages.
Yeah,
adding
I would
numbers and
probably
numbers.
just put it in that sentence. I mean, it could just be how we're spending the last 4 years, and you could just even put a parenthetical, combined annual growth rates of 3.4% and 5.4% for the town and school respectively.
Can you tell me exactly what to write, or do you want to
Yeah.
put it in? Because
So
spending over the last 4 years per
yeah,
parens, open parens.
Annual growth rate of 3.4% and 5.4% for the town and schools respectively.
Okay.
How do we dodge the bullet this year?
And actually looking at the forecast, I actually think we will probably dodge it next year too. Because of the potential for the surplus, and like the school can potentially keep their budget lower next year.
Depends upon their bargaining.
What's that?
Depends upon their bargaining.
Well, I think their bargaining is going to determine, unfortunately, it's like, I think even if their bargaining is too high, they still might be able to avoid it next year. But then the following year will probably be a disaster because the bargaining will catch up, and like it can mask. Well, the third thing is the enrollment is most likely going to shift back.
Yeah.
Because the main thing was like both towns went down. Wenham's just went down further. And I don't know like what proportion of those are going to be sticky, but there's a good chance that a lot of those kids go back, and then the enrollment shifts back.
Okay.
And it's going to be whiplash for Wenham.
As to the last sentence of this paragraph, what if we were to say, just that while we recommend approval of this budget, we must continue to practice discipline, or we urge continuation of, or however. While we recommend approval of the budget, we must continue to.
I mean, make our spending as efficient as possible. And we cannot spend at the levels we've spent the last 4 years too.
Okay.
Or the growth levels, I should say. It's not so much cut, it's that we can't grow at that same accelerated rate.
Well, But John, the town has not grown.
What do you mean the town hasn't grown?
The town side of the budget.
It's grown by 3.5% for the last 4 years.
How about the last 2 years?
Well, yeah, no, like the year before that, it grew by like a pretty big percent. Last year, certainly. Well, I should say last 2 years. Yeah, the year we're currently in. And then this year is a relatively modest increase. Yeah, so maybe, but I see what you're saying, David. It's the most recent town. It's not.
Right, that's what I'm focusing.
It was the 2 years before this for the town. Anyways, I mean, what do we want to say for this? I don't want to over.
I think what you've done is saying that the budgets have been over the 2.5%.
Right.
And the only valve you have is growth and capacity, which has been going down.
Right.
So in that last sentence, not only are we focusing on spending, but as Nick suggests, we should put in a word for revenue enhancement. Nick, however you want to express it.
Yeah, I was going to start writing and
Yes, I would agree something about revenue enhancements.
Something. All right, so I highlighted that we want to maybe add a last sentence there.
How about including commercial development and new growth? Pardon me.
I think Nick is writing. Nick, right now I have a sentence that says FinCom also recommends that the town focus on revenue enhancements, including commercial development and new growth. But if you've got ideas, then.
it's a shame that I know this has to be due by tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah.
All-nighter.
Yeah. Can we go on to the capital expenditures a little bit while Nick's
Okay.
penning his does anybody, so I wrote this about the public safety building. I tried to look back at my notes and I didn't have anything in writing. Does anybody have a memory or of what the presentation was? I did find that the repairs were deferred last year.
I don't remember. All I remember are the doors. I'm sorry, I don't remember the HVAC system.
Anybody have any suggestions for that language? And
Well, Nick is not chewing gum, so maybe he can, in addition to writing. Nick, was there an HVAC? Nick, was there an HVAC issue at the public safety building?
I know there was. I
Okay.
remember the topic being discussed,
Okay.
but we can come back to that too.
There was something, but I can't remember exactly how it was. I don't remember what the issue was. I don't know. It was just upstairs and where they.
I mean, is there anything about this sentences that are not true?
You're asking me?
Yeah,
You talking to me?
you talking to me?
I was thinking of something else. Hold on, let me look. I have to tell you, I'm not sure. Was there anything going on with the Coalition of the Aging? Was that the other? Oh, by the way, does anyone know why that woman was put on administrative leave?
Well,
Mary Beth?
Yeah.
remember, we are at a,
Public meeting, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
So it's not a public issue?
not at the moment. I think it's just a personnel issue.
Okay. I digress. I thought that there was something to do with, there may have been something to do with the HVAC at the COA. I'm not sure. I'm just putting geographically the two together. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I think there was a generator or generators that had something to do with both of
Generator,
them. But
yeah.
this is public safety building HVAC. That's what's in the warrant. So that clearly, that's
Yeah.
definitely what they're looking for. So
That's right.
this is the information that I found. So if nobody has anything more or better about that, then that's fine. I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's fine.
And same thing with the library roof. And just, and we confirmed about the one police patrol car is going to be leased and the second patrol car is going to be purchased this year. And that's here under the capital expenditures. So does that all look good?
That all looks good.
Is there an objection?
I have those numbers highlighted just for Diane to double check them tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Capital expenditures, no tax rate. The water enterprise budget, same thing, that number is just highlighted to check. And David did that.
That figure is in the warrant, Christina.
Okay.
Okay, great. Confirmed.
242,565.
Okay. And then this number last at the meeting on Monday, Joe was still waiting for this for the.
Oh, and he sent, while we've been talking, he sent the warrant. So let me see if it's there. 2.6. Yes. The grand total of $129.07.
129.07.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I wrote this one about the revolving fund. Let me know if anyone has any thoughts or changes. David wrote this nice section on the HDC. The only question I had about this is whether you go in detail into the timeline. I didn't know if that could be streamlined a little bit, or if people think that that's all important information.
Well, it sort of shows the evolution of the investment, but I leave it to you to make changes.
They're digging a big hole there now.
If we hurry up, we can finish before Nick is finished writing.
Just from my recollection, the 2018 rejection of the affordable housing. Is that because it was, I thought that was because it was linked to that other development.
The Long Meadow, along,
Yeah, I thought it was that they said they'd only do that.
oh,
Harbor,
that's right. The developer said that.
right. But people didn't actually reject. Town meeting didn't reject anything on the Max Shoe side, did they?
Well, I don't remember exactly, John. I do recall the coupling, as you point out.
I thought we were good to go with that project.
And I think,
You
yes,
can only
right.
do that if you approve Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook got rejected, and then they said, well, we don't want to do Max Shoe.
Right.
I don't want the implication that town meeting had not wanted any affordable housing on that site, because that I don't think was ever the case.
So let's see.
So town meeting approved the amendment in 2016, but then in 2018,
It was really more the developer pulled out of it.
But you could say, but thereafter in 2018, the project was halted or,
Something of that effect, yeah.
but so the amendment was, let me see. So HDC proposed a bylaw. Should we just leave this all out then? And the amendment was approved in 2016?
but the project did not go forward for other reasons.
But I mean, we don't even have a project yet. We'd have to say a project was proposed, but then didn't go forward, which
Yeah,
I don't know if it's important to talk about a project that was proposed but didn't, well, it was then withdrawn.
so if we delete that, then we go from 2016 to 2019.
Yeah.
So I'd like to fill in that chronology somehow.
You could just say, but an initial project in 2018 fell through. You could say an initial affordable housing project fell through.
Okay. Can you keep undaunted?
Yeah,
Thank you.
like the undaunted.
I have to say I'm a little troubled by using the fiscal 20 receipts as the measure of the appropriation for fiscal 22, since it's clear that the 21 receipts are going to be, that is, did we got the money in 20, that's what confuses me. Did we get the money in 20?
Well, as you do, similar to almost like that, where we talk about like the school, it's that you don't know, 20 you don't know until after, I hope I don't get this wrong, because this is like consistently confused me. Like it's not collected, or you don't know what it is until, end of fiscal 20 and, audited, et cetera, which, will be like September of this, this past September.
Right.
So then you can then make that transfer as part of the following year's budget, because you wouldn't do it during your budget's already set in FY21. So it's effectively, you have like this 1.5 year delay before it can be transferred.
Yeah, okay.
So right now we're theoretically giving them the money that came in 2019. Is that kind of how it's working?
Yeah, we would have basically last year, or like at the beginning of FY21, you're giving them the money that came in FY20 or FY19.
I thought Joe, someone asked Joe that question Monday night, and I thought he said fiscal 20.
Yeah, the fiscal 20 will be transferred at town meeting, this meeting, right? So fiscal 20 ended last June 30th. So then you're in fiscal 21, but you don't know the total you've collected for the year until you've done the audit. And then, I guess technically maybe you could have transferred it at town meeting, but I think it's harder because it's not part of a budget because you've collected the revenue. I don't know.
I know you're correct, John. You said
It's messy. It's one of these municipal accounting things that's just not, it's not ideal.
You okay with my thought that the HDC is working toward the beginning of a self-funded capacity? That's just my thought.
Self-funded capacity.
When you say self-funded, are you talking in terms of the taxes it collects?
Because I don't think that's the case.
Well, what I had in my aged head was what was it, 230 or so net thousand recovery from the sale of this property. And I was envisioning that as the commencement of a self-funded sort of revolving, they made that net profit and they're going to invest that.
Right, but Rick was very clear, and I that doesn't mean that they're going to not continue to take, a significant amount of the meals tax,
Unless town meeting says otherwise.
unless some town meeting says otherwise.
So if this is a troublesome phrase, then I have no proprietary.
Yeah, I don't want to back them into their corner, which is, okay, you've sold this property, now you should be self-funding, and meals tax just goes to the town.
So we just say HCC is working to promote commercial development and the production of revenue. You can save me from myself. So through its persistence and diligence, the HCC is working that's right.
To promote commercial development and the production of revenue streams and mitigation of the real estate tax.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Well, look at another, if you go to, and sorry if I'm backtracking a little bit, the 2 paragraphs before that, starting with more than 25%.
Yeah.
The second to last sentence that ends will exceed 45,000. I would just add the word annually.
Okay.
Just because the power here is this one transaction alone, it's going to add, 45,000 annually. It's
right.
Almost paid for what it's taking out of the meals tax.
Yeah.
Another one of these, and then in some sense, while it may still get the meals tax, it really is self-funding.
Oh, we can put my phrase back.
Well, yeah, but it's
no,
it's
okay.
but it's weird. It's like, it's not, doesn't mean we don't want the tax. It means our projects are
I agree.
tax revenue to the town.
Paying for itself, yeah.
Right, then we're taking out by taking our meals tax. So we're gonna just
Right.
continue to.
Okay.
Nick, do you have your,
I have,
you have your
some-
book?
this is what I was, it's only two sentences. What I'm actually saying is Prop 2.5 dictates budgets above 2.5% have to be offset either by excess capacity, which is diminishing, or commercial or residential growth. The warning here is budgets must be capped at between 2.5% or 3% to prevent an override in the next couple of years. I think that's
So
what
wait,
is we're
I
trying
thought
to,
we were,
it's a warning. It really is what we're trying to give people.
but how is that? And I thought we were gonna add about the revenue part, but. And I don't, maybe we're just repeating it, but isn't that the same thing that's said in the preceding sentences?
Let me see. If it is, then we don't need to do it. Where is it? This is the last paragraph. Is what we're talking about.
Yeah, so if you basically back up in that and start with without excess capacity.
I'm sorry. Start where?
Sort of middle of that without, yeah, where the little,
I think, are you looking at the screen, Nick?
Actually, I was looking at my screen.
You're
Not
looking at yours, yeah.
Let me go to
So-
yours.
A couple sentences back, without excess capacity. It means that your annual cost cannot be greater than 2.5%, all other items being equal.
Well, we haven't added in the fact that there's the two things that can happen is if you can offset it by either the excess capacity, which you've identified as diminishing,
and then the next sentence. Although there are nuances, new growth is added to this levy limit. And we can clarify that a little more.
okay, exclude future spending levels greater than 2% will lead to a series of overrides.
Because I thought, so then we have the, while we recommend, we have to be, disciplined and efficient. And then something about also look for revenue, which revenue growth is, or, new growth.
Yeah, I would be a little bit more, I put originally caution here, or you could say the warning here is, and you're right, it'd be redundant, but I would say that right where about where your future spending levels, the caution here is future spending levels greater than 2.5%. Will lead to, that's what I would just put in the caution or the warning.
Yeah, and then, if we want to be exactly, let's,
Can we say
call
that
it out a
future,
little more.
can we say that future budget increases? Because
Yeah. Yes, I think that's what I was saying. Is
That's actually, yeah,
uh,
that's a good way to say that. That's much more accurate.
and we could, I think I'd like to pull this new growth out a little bit more. I think that's one of the things that Nick has been talking about. So maybe take it out of this parenthetical.
Sure.
And maybe make this its own sentence. So not all those. So there are nuances.
I think if you take away the nuances, because I think really what we're saying, we can pretty much say that it's budgets have to be supported by budgets over 2.5% have to be supported by the excess capacity or commercial and residential growth.
Yep.
So the prior sentence says, without excess capacity, it means that your annual cost cannot be greater than 2.5%, all other items being equal. How about if we just say one thing that can increase this limit is new growth somehow that, or what did you say, Nick?
I said that Proposition 8, 2.5 dictates budgets over 2.5% have to be offset. But I don't know, that's getting a bit, we're repeating what John has put.
It's not budgets.
Budget increases?
No, it's how much you can extract from the property owner. Right?
Yeah, but are we talking about the
tax levy cannot exceed 2.5% of the prior year.
Well, right.
It's not the budget.
What it means is if you don't increase your revenue or your growth, then your spending levels can't be above 2.5%. Because you can only get so much out of the tax levy.
Right.
And if your revenue basically doesn't increase to have a greater proportion of, right now we get 10% of the revenue from non-property tax. That went to 15%. Well, if you could spend that and keep your levy the same. So it's really revenue, new growth, because it goes into the formula. In revenue, the only offsets or you decrease spending. Those are your three choices.
Sorry, we still don't have a sentence quite, but I just wanted to jot down the thoughts there. So the three things are control your spending, increase revenue, or new growth, right? So without excess capacity, it means your annual cost cannot be greater than 2.5%.
I mean, you could say without excess capacity, it means your annual cost cannot be greater than 2.5%, unless there is increased revenue from other sources or commercial or residential growth, period. That's a true sentence.
Is it costs or is it the tax levy?
What's that?
The 2.5% measure.
Well, it's the tax levy, but I guess what I'm saying is the only way you can use more of that levy is if you're using.
It's the money made available to you via the levy.
Right. But if your costs go up by 2.5%, everything else stays equal. Like that's your limit.
Yes.
That offset increased costs. So you could have, above 2.5% if you don't have revenue growth or, new growth.
Or non-tax revenue.
Yeah. Or, excess capacity too. I guess that's but we already start the sentence.
The nuances.
Yeah.
To try to, I think what helps us is if we keep it simple. Because if you start to get into the nuances, you're getting into the weeds.
Yeah, although one nuance I would add back, I think the without excess capacity sentence is a good one. You may add a sentence after that. There are some nuances. For example, I want to put in the debt exclusion one because if
the town halls,
future school facilities, people are going to say, well, we'll never be able to go above 2.5%. We can never fund those because of Prop 2.5. That's not true because those are going to be debt excluded projects. Big projects you can actually go above 2.5%. we're starting to get in the weeds, but I think it's sort of important, especially with the,
Does that work? A parenthetical sentence, there are some nuances such as the effects of debt exclusions relating to large projects.
yeah, I put the relating to large projects, not that it has to be a large project to get a debt exclusion, but it's,
Can we say that it means that the tax levy and thus annual costs cannot be greater than 2.5%?
Weaving them back together, I think it's easier to say that
I see, yeah, I keep it this way, because David, at the beginning of the paragraph, we do say that Prop 2.5 is defined by your tax levy. But we're just getting to the sort of math and the formula, which is if you don't have capacity and you increase your cost by more than that, if you don't have offsetting revenue or growth, you're going to have to increase your levy beyond 2.5%. And that's what you're going to file.
I wonder if we should break this up into two paragraphs and stop the first paragraph at the levy issue. I mean, the capacity issue. I'm spending over the last few years resulting in excess capacity being eliminated. Excess capacity has been eliminated, period there. We enter 20, we vote a real possibility. But you can go, I'm sorry, you can keep the next sentence in the paragraph. See, we enter the fiscal year 22 with a budget process with only this amount of excess capacity. As a result, the discipline, making the Proposition 2.5 vote a real possibility. As a result, the discipline. Now, if we stop the paragraph there. You had something about razor thin. Where was that razor thin?
See, I would probably stop the paragraph at the next sentence. So however, for future years should be the start of the next paragraph.
That's the razor thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I would say, I like that first sentence. However, the future years, the margin of error is razor thin with respect to avoiding the override. Proposition 2.5 dictates budgets over 2.5% have to be funded, have to be offset by either the excess capacity, which is, as you've pointed out, diminishing, or commercial or residential growth.
It's not budgets.
But David, we're on budgets. Like that's not Prop 2.5, but what we're saying is if you don't, the formula effectively is if you don't have excess capacity and you increase your spending behind 2.5, if you don't have offsets with revenue and commercial growth, you will then have to increase your levy beyond 2.5, which is forbidden. But how does it translate to an actual, to controlling spending? It's not like the sort of 2.5% increase in tax levy doesn't really, that's not going to hit your average person in terms of, well, how does that mean I should look at spending for schools and towns?
I suggested to reference the 2.5 in terms of the tax levy and thus what money is available to be spent. But the horse is dead. So whatever satisfies you. I was concerned that we were improperly describing the law. So if the 2.5 applies to the tax levy and derivative of that is how much money there is to spend.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we, after the word between it and means, we say it practically means.
That's fine. That's fine.
Because yeah, I mean, and we do the paragraph at the beginning of the paragraph before, we clearly define Prop 2.5 is
right.
increases in the tax levy.
Okay with me.
Yeah,
Can I do that? It means in practical terms.
terms,
Because
perfect.
It
that.
practically means that, that sounds like it kind of means. It means in practical terms that your annual cost cannot increase greater than
Yeah.
2.5%.
I like it.
Unless there's an increased revenue from other sources or,
Yeah, such as, well, yeah, as you say there, such as commercial and residential growth. I would keep it simple like that, and because that's the biggest, I think it says it very well. And yes, there are always nuances in everything. But if you keep it simple, I think that's going to be easier for people to understand.
can we now continue here that for this reason, FinCom recommends that the town focus on revenue enhancements, including commercial development and new growth? Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
To put this.
Yeah,
We're actually saying three things here. We're saying that spending needs to be controlled, and that we need to focus on revenue enhancements, including commercial development and new growth.
Maybe here we could say that spending by the town and by the schools be controlled. I don't know, to David's point, to kind of pull that out a little bit.
Yep.
How's that going?
I'm thinking, where have we put this double?
Hmm?
What's the source? Yeah, we just take out that parentheses. Is that correct? You agree? Everybody agree on that?
take the whole, I don't agree. I
No.
just, I don't want someone coming back, we can't do town hall. If you look at that commentary there, clearly like that kind of spending, huge project spending will take us over it. And that's why. Because in some sense, it's like Prop 2.5, like if you can get a debt exclusion, it's going to affect your tax rate, but it's not going to affect 2.5. So
I would even be more specific, John, and say there are some nuances such as the debt exclusions and capture the town hall project as an example. We recommend the project both as to the CPC and the other article. That's an example of the debt exclusion.
yeah, and you could say such as the effects of debt exclusion related to large projects like the town hall renovation or, future school facilities.
Yes. Yes.
The town hall renovation, is that what you want to call it?
Yeah,
And
way to describe it.
future school facilities, is that what
Sure.
you said?
Yeah.
And I took out large,
Or
large. Go ahead.
or future school buildings. I guess facilities, but future.
Right, because there might be fields too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that okay that I took out the
We-
word large?
You know what? And let's change the word nuances to exceptions.
And do we have to have the effects of, or could it be such as debt exclusions? There are some exceptions such as debt exclusions relating to
Yeah, I think you can just take, the effects out.
such as debt. Okay. I like that. Do you think we're good with that one?
And then and then the last paragraph, just, it sort of repeats it, but I think that's fine.
Oh. Yeah, no, I like that.
I think it's fine to repeat it. I mean, it's the message we want to hammer home.
Yep.
So, if we're gonna be repetitive anyway, I think it's the way it reads now, it's okay.
Yep.
I'm with that. I like it.
Yay.
And John, I think you're correct. We do need to have that that piece in there about the,
But yeah,
The
no,
debt exclusions, yeah.
I do like how it ended up. After droning on for two and a half to 3 pages, your conclusion has to really hit home.
Yes.
Then I think it's definitely okay to be redundant because you gotta summarize things.
I kind of skipped down a little bit, or I'm gonna, to 212 because this needs a little bit of work here. Because
Okay,
I'm not clear on, we have the CPC budget and then we have CPC Patton Parks tennis courts, and then we have CPC Town Hall building. So I don't think these two things should be listed here, right? Because they're discussed separately. It's the tennis courts.
yeah, those definitely should not be there.
And so in the appendix, there are appendix. There are these 5 things. So is this is this Article 212 talking about these?
what it's doing. Let me see. The first part is that they're putting aside money, and then there's going to be the tennis courts, and then it's going to be the,
Well, but it's talking about at least 4 and 5. Because they're not mentioned in the succeeding.
Well, no, but this is the one before Monday, because one of our comments was you need to say which articles they refer to. Like, for example, they were going to switch them around. 1, 2, and 5 are going to be 2-12. 3 is, maybe I've got that. I'm sorry, 1, 3, and 5 or 2-12. 2 is 2.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay,
then-
so
I'm sorry, now I got 1, 4, and 5. Yeah,
getting
maybe that's
late.
what David said originally, and it's confusing. 1, 4, 5 or 2-12, but
Yeah. Did Joe send a new
well,
warrant?
he sent the new warrant, but it's like still a Word document. It doesn't have any of the appendices, which is, I understand it, because like the appendices have all the separate attachments, which are not, some of them you can't put into a Word document.
So should this be something like this? So this year they will be number 1, appropriate amount
Yeah,
from FY22 Community Preservation Fund revenues to fund the debt service for Sagamore Hill.
You need a 4, or the fro should be a 4. There you go. How frustrating is it that you can't cut and paste from the PDF?
Yeah. I'm gonna do something like make a column or something so I can have that mount over here
Oh yeah, exactly.
or something. Okay, so I can do that. Um,
So what is the article here?
Two 12.
I'm just trying to see what the actual article was.
212.
the substance of it, I think you mean.
Oh, okay, got it.
Anyway, I'll finish that up.
I'd probably add one thing, and maybe it's either the lead into that table, basically
Mhm.
saying that there are 2 other CPC projects that are the subject of Articles 2-13 and 2-14.
Say that again, John?
Well, just the fact that, like, normally we have the CPC all in one article, and we list all the things, and now we're listing, 3/5 of them, and
Yeah, further confusing, the warrant references Appendix G as a context for the appropriation. And Appendix G appears to include all 5 items.
well, right, and I think I don't know what the latest draft, but
That's what we were talking about, that, David, that they were supposed to reorder these things so that one.
I think the way Christina did it is correct for 2-12. I'm just saying 2-12 references Appendix G as the context for 2-12.
yeah,
I mean, here it does say for more details, see Articles 213 and 214 in Appendix G. CPC budget.
oh, yeah, I sort of didn't see that.
But I'll write that differently. Actually,
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, like the way they've done this is I don't understand why. Like Patton Park, there's no reason that shouldn't be in 2-12, but like I get, like, the town hall one, it's such a big one, you really should put it on its own. Anyway, it is what it is. It's not our warrant, we just react to it.
okay. I'll finish up that, copying over that description and make it look a little bit better. But is that okay then?
Yeah,
What if I didn't put the detail in? So the details in the appendix G, I could say appropriate community preservation fund revenues for administrative costs. Salary.
Appendix G doesn't really provide greater detail.
So you're saying provide a little less detail, so
Right.
And then Appendix G captures both these three items plus the tennis courts plus the town hall.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, like Christina, I think you could just say administrative costs and then put the number.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that's fine.
Yeah.
At least they won't feel like they've wasted their time turning the
Gypped.
because they'll at least get a little more information. Administrative costs.
So I would get rid of the phrase "for more detail, see Appendix G."
Well, there for the administrative costs, there actually is additional detail there.
Now there is.
Signs publicizing CPA projects, salaries for the part-time workers. A lot of good stuff back there. The other one's not so much.
Okay. You're right.
I don't know. I don't like that, but. Okay, then we've got the tennis courts,
I'm good. with-
and then we've got the town hall building project. I like this, Nick, asking the question and answering it. The answer is no. Okay. And then the town hall building project. I'm just gonna fill up my water. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Sure.
I just got rid of mine.
Did you make water? In Europe, they always say make water.
Yeah. Water closet, right?
That's it. Any questions, recommendations, or comments on this?
Well, I understand this ought to be confirmed, but I think the school committee voted last night to support the project.
They did unanimously.
So do we want to add that?
Well, that would be, the project is later on. This is just a CPC contribution.
Okay,
Oh, you're right. But we definitely should add that to the next one.
Okay, and that's fine. And I think that would be good to include on the next, but the next portion, this is really, is it appropriate to use CPC funds is really the question.
Yeah.
I think the most telling part is the fact that it's, if you build new, you can't use CPC funds. And then then all that tax burden falls onto the town.
Right.
Oh, I know what I have in this, in its paragraph, 1, 2, 3. Paragraph 3, the CPC funding source includes an established 2% surcharge, or is tax okay?
It's a surcharge.
It is a surcharge.
Which, should it be a tax surcharge, or is that the way we want to put it, or just a
You could
surcharge?
say tax surcharge. I think that's accurate.
Oh, I'm about to change it on mine. Christine?
The CPC's funding sources include an established 2% tax surcharge plus a state-provided match. Oop, that's not what I meant to do. A state-provided match. Contribution will not impact your tax rate.
No, this is, I like this. This is all good, Nick.
Okay, so let's move then to the next one, which is.
Yes, 5, 10.
Say that again?
Oh, the next article, the next paragraph.
Oh,
The next article.
I was going to the next article,
Right.
but
Good. Oh, no, that's good. Article 215. Town hall project. So it lists the problems.
So in the last paragraph before other factors, I'd really like to emphasize, yeah, there, Christina. That's fine, what you have here. I'd like really to find a way to reiterate, to say, look, all your spending here, because some people understood it was, I attended their meeting today, Nick, for a few minutes, the
today.
Town Hall Building Committee.
Oh, yes, I missed it. I was doing something and I said, I've got to get onto this meeting. And then suddenly I looked up and it was just a half hour later, a half hour past the start time.
Right. And some people apparently believe in town that it's $240 a quarter. So I know this is, these facts are fine and correct. If there was some way to hammer home the point that because of the amortization schedule, the burden to the taxpayer is de minimis.
Well, this is only indicating what the first year impact is. In future years, it actually decreases.
Right, and we ought to say that.
Yeah, I would, after that,
How about the first year impact on the tax rate drops to this? Future years, we don't know what it's going to be. And that's the problem. You don't have a dollar amount you can put in there.
But we know
I would
that
just say, like, after that sentence that ends $631,000 house, just say, you know, as the debt is amortized, like future tax years, the impact will be even lower.
Okay.
Right.
That's what you'd have to put it in, because we don't have a dollar amount.
Right.
Yeah, I think just a general statement that it's gonna be lower, like it's.
And do we want to?
Does it continue to decrease each year?
I think so. Doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah,
Because that's what I remember, and I think we came out with an average number over the life of it, but I don't know that but that's not a fair number. I mean, you have to really, you probably just put in what you just said, and it diminishes each year. The tax impact drops each year.
And we want to circle back to the debt exclusion aspect.
Yeah, I think we definitely should.
Well, that should be part of the other factors.
Okay, wherever you want to put it.
Well, actually, let me say that this was trying to describe why this thing has been reintroduced.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it belongs later in the.
I thought other factors. So is that last paragraph why it's being reintroduced? Or perhaps that concept of what it's going to cost the average taxpayer should be a standalone item?
Standalone in what sense? It ties into the fact that the CPC contribution is there, and that we've.
I mean, standalone as a category. In the text, a separate category.
Like, why is this being reintroduced and other factors? But it's being introduced because, and one of the reasons, are you saying, Nick, here that, are you saying here that one of the reasons it's being introduced is because the cost has been reduced, and so it's being put before the voters again?
Yeah, so there's the major factor is that the reduction in the budget and the increase in the CPC funding have made a dramatic increase in the reduction in the tax consequence to the public.
Right.
That's how all those first four paragraphs, or underneath that wall, fit together.
However, as what troubled you before is the complicating reality that the CPC 2% is a funding component here.
Yes, it's a funding component. And in fact, did I put that in there? Where did I put that in there?
I'm just talking about the change concept. The money's been moved around. It's still the public's money.
Yes, it is the public's money. There was no question about that.
So I'm just wondering if that's a change. The same thing that bothered you earlier, Nick. So what I'm asking you to consider, and then whatever you think is appropriate, is to make the burden on the taxpayer a separate category here, and drum home the fact that it's really a de minimis burden. And by the way, it doesn't expose us to override issues. But I'll leave it to you as to where you want to fit that all in.
Well, it's not me, it's us. So let's put together on this. And does anybody have a way of putting that thought into this logically?
And say in the thought, are we talking now about the debt exclusion part or different part?
Debt exclusion.
Well, I was talking more generically about the burden to the taxpayer and whether that should be highlighted as a separate textual category or whether it's just part of the change. I'm just trying to emphasize the fact that the cost is, it's not an extravagance.
Yeah, I mean, here's another,
If it doesn't come across, tell me where it doesn't come across.
well, you know, and I see definitely what David's saying is it's sort of your, because you set it up to like answer these questions. Like you could even have a separate question that is, will, you know, will voting for this, you know, stop other projects from happening? Or, you know, curtail other spending? And I think then you can point out that the tax burden's low. And B, that, you know, it's a debt exclusion. So it's not
And
gonna prop 2.5.
And see that the school committee,
And then, yeah, C, school committee's on board, not gonna affect future, you know, school facilities, which, you know, we clearly know are in dire need of, you know, I don't want to say similar renovation because it's a totally different thing. It's totally needed investment.
Renovation or expansion.
What's that?
In need of renovation or expansion. In other words, we need a new school. We may need a new elementary school.
Yeah, yeah. Although it's probably all in is probably contraction, but it's to you know 2 to 1, but it'll be a new one. Expand one and lose another one. Anyway,
School replacement. Maybe that's the right word.
yeah.
so the first question is, Nick, does this last paragraph about why the change is a subject deserving of a more notorious posture, a greater textual posture?
Yeah, what you're saying is, can we emphasize it more?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you took that paragraph out, put it, as we talked about, under a sort of separate question, you know, and you could even leave one sentence in this section of why are we bringing it back up? You know, the tax burden has gone down, see below for more detail, like just to hammer that point home. But I think answering that key question of like, you know, is it going to stop us spending on other things?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Is really is the key question. And I think having that question in bold is the, you know, is then what you know, answer, you know.
Another resounding no.
Right, right, exactly. No, no, no.
So I think people are suggesting maybe another, you have this category up here. Why is this being introduced?
Right.
Factors, and then another one. Will this project interfere with other projects
Yeah.
or raise the tax rate too high?
So you want to retain, Christina, can you go up just a bit? Yeah, the last paragraph. Just some generic reference, the lower budget and increased CPC combined to reduce the taxpayer funding, as noted below or something, and then have a separate category.
Yeah. The lower budget increased CPC contribution combined to reduce taxpayer funding request. I don't know, should we leave that sentence and then put this
Okay.
part?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And then a new boldface caption.
And should this new caption and section be above other factors up here?
Yes.
Yep, I would agree. Perfect.
The other question is, will it interfere with other projects? And this is where we want to introduce the debt exclusion.
Yep, exactly.
And so we would talk here in terms of the,
First, I'm sorry to will is this project affordable, and will it interfere with other projects? Yes, no. That is, we're saying it's affordable and it won't interfere with other projects. That's what we're capturing in this.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think so then it would start, I'd put the debt exclusion and the school support after that first year impact.
Right.
And then, yeah, so that would be the first, exactly.
So then we have to explain this a little bit more, I think, because you just started out with it dropping, but dropping from where? So
yeah, it's dropping from 22 cents, which was introduced in the fall. I believe it was 22 cents.
yeah, I meant more like from the original, the first year impact on the tax rate drops from the original proposal or the original.
Yeah, the original proposal, it's not. The originally proposed 22 cents to,
Whatever it is, and will continue to decline year after year. From 22 to whatever it is, and will continue to decline.
yeah, that's kept up above the lower budget. Yeah, it should be. Where did you have that? Yeah, there it is. So we'll, future tax years, the impact will be lower. I think what David said was a bit clearer, and will continue to decline in future years.
Yeah.
So it says in future tax years, the impact will be even lower and will continue to decline.
You can take out even lower, just it will continue to decline.
In future tax years, the impact will continue to decline. So is this right though, that going back, the first year impact on the tax rate drops from the originally proposed 22 cents to 15 cents, a $1,000
Per thousand.
per.
Per thousand, yeah.
Per thousand, yeah.
Per thousand evaluation.
And now instead of or 14, it's to $24 a quarter.
Is that right? The first year impact on the tax rate drops from the originally proposed 22 cents to 15 cents per 15 cents per thousand.
You got to say per thousand of value of valuation.
Which amounts to $24 a quarter
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
on the average $631,000 house.
I think we need to be a bit more explicit on that last sentence. The tax rate declines each year as the bond amortizes. Isn't that what is happening?
Well, the cost declines.
Fine.
The annual cost. Isn't that what declines?
As the bond as the bond is paid down. I think that's all you can put in there. And then we want to talk about this project will,
I was gonna say not affect,
this debt is excluded from the budget
Yeah,
and
from the Prop 2.5 calculations.
correct.
I mean, we want to say if approved at ATM and, you know, on the ballot.
so this debt.
The Prop 2.5 calculations.
This will be excluded from the Prop 2.5 calculations. Do you want to put that in there just for education purposes, also known as debt exclusion? I'm just asking the question, or is that redundant?
Or you could just say this debt will be and then capitalized, like debt exclusion. Excluded from the towns.
You want to put that in parentheses? In quotes, I mean?
Sure. Yeah, actually, I like that.
Do we want to say, nor will this project be an impediment to other projects such as school? A note that the school committee has unanimously approved, something like.
Yeah, and I think that's what Christina's typing right now.
Finally, this project will not be an impediment to other projects.
You want to put in major projects or just projects? Major capital projects?
Major, I was gonna say such as school buildings or such as school facilities.
Yep.
Say. So in that case, I don't think we need to say major projects because we're talking about major projects by pointing out that they're like the school facilities, but do you think so?
Okay.
And what do we want to say the school?
In there, school, which has school buildings and facilities. Just emphasize the fact that it could be, that way it includes the fields.
Yeah. And is it the school committee? Are we saying has supports this?
Unanimously approved this project, the town hall project.
They can't really approve it, right? They're supported.
Supported.
That's right. Instead of this, can we say that has supported?
This
I
town
can't see
hall,
that.
the town hall project,
Yeah.
Right.
town hall the renovation.
taken together, the need to renovate, the reduced budget, the additional CPC, I skipped forward, sorry. The additional CPC contribution, reducing the tax burden, and the knowledge that delays will lead to higher costs. FinCom believes. So do we want to add here something about the
school.
acceptable? Yeah,
I would just put in the and the school support and the school committee support. What do they call it? School board? They call it a school board or school committee?
School committee.
Among other things.
taken together, the need to renovate, the reduced budget. I guess that's what we're talking about, the reduced budget, the reasonableness, the additional CPC contribution, reducing the tax burden, the knowledge that delays will lead to higher costs, and the school committee support.
If you don't like time is of the essence, that's fine. I was trying, it lended itself more to the higher costs and the additional costs if we went delayed voting on it now.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
You could have said, Nick, in the fullness of time.
No, that wouldn't have been appropriate. I think we should use that when we're talking about the fact that we're going to have a debt override. I mean, a Prop 22 override vote.
Yeah, right.
That it will occur.
Yeah.
Do we think the Prop 2.5 stuff that we have up there is one sentence is enough?
Say that again, John. You broke up.
Do we think that one sentence is enough on that?
Right, and this what we just added.
Approved at ATM, this debt will be deducted from the town's Prop 2.5 calculations. I don't know, maybe if we wanted to add something that said, in other words, this project put us any closer to an override
That's right.
situation.
Okay. That's, yeah.
What was the end of it? In other words, this project,
Will not put us any closer to an override situation.
Or is not a factor in the override situation.
Or I almost want to say, put us any closer to an override situation, or
Contribute, will not contribute to.
yeah, it's almost like it's not going to put pressure on other spending in and of itself. I guess pressure exists, but this isn't going to make the problem worse.
Will not contribute to concerns regarding Prop 2.5 overriding exposure.
There must be more words you can put in.
You forget, I used to get paid by the word.
really will not, this project will not contribute to,
An override, a Prop 22 override.
Okay,
2.5.
That's fine. Yeah.
the,
Should we put in there project's cost? This project's cost will not contribute.
Sure. Yeah.
So now we have two sentences. Is that better, John?
Yeah. No, I think it's a little better. Yeah.
and it's almost 10:30, so
Yep, let's get into the threes.
What's the next big one? Do we have anything that's,
No,
That's it.
that's
That's-
it.
oh my gosh, golly Wally. So in back up, what is it we have to finish up before tomorrow?
We need the details under the compensation classification.
Yeah,
If there-
which I've managed to steal a moment here or there. I've got a list of all the things that we need to mention.
Good.
So I'll draft that for you, Christina.
Yeah, maybe at this point I can send this to you and
Sure.
you can put it in because that might be the last thing.
Yeah, because I think I've got three things on my list. If I can work the projections in somewhere logically, great. And then there's that one sentence, yeah, the thing you've
I
highlighted.
have that right here, yeah.
Yeah, I've got sort of additional language for that. Yeah, you want to just send it to me and
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, I think those are the
Yeah.
three highlights.
Things that, are yeah, work for you.
I want to thank Christina for her.
Nice job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're welcome.
It is
Thinking.
definitely no firsthand. It's a ton of collating that stuff.
That is not a problem for me.
That's good. It's a nice wave.
Uh,
Are you saying goodbye?
No, I'm waving.
Oh, I'm slow tonight.
Latest warrant appendices being finalized.
What's the rest of our agenda, John?
Well, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. I think.
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor?
So, well, just, so I just emailed that to you, John. Jen, you're gonna finish those things up and send them on?
Yeah, I'll turn it into a PDF and send it on and we're good to go.
Awesome. Okay. And are we still, I think we have a meeting on the calendar. Our regular meeting is next week, but are we gonna do that or?
Oh, that's a good point. Probably not, don't you think?
We have our various assignments for town meeting.
Yep. Should we have one on the 28th instead then, which is right before?
I think it makes more sense to have one on the 28th. I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean, that's right now the luxury of Zoom meetings and not having to schedule the COA or meeting space is that it's just easier to get out of. I'm not even sure what our sequence was anyways, because we've had two in a row. So yeah, let's do it on the 28th.
All right, that's great. And then after that, are we gonna do it?
Probably, well,
It's-
because usually like having a meeting right after town meeting. Yeah, I'd say 12th would probably be the next one.
Perfect. And then I guess the only other thing is, I mean, we can talk about this at probably the one after town meeting, but I think we're gonna be looking for new committee members.
Yep.
Yep,
members plural.
members plural.
I'm just assuming. You know, Valerie's definitely, she's moving out of town, so,
Is she moving out of town?
yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
crap.
Are we anticipating additional departures?
That was my question.
Well, Yes,
What?
yes.
Yes.
Did you say yes?
I said yes.
But you signed up for 3 years.
I didn't. I had a proviso. I said I would go one more year until Christine was going to ready to take over.
But you signed up and you were appointed for 3 years.
Well, let me see if I understand that correctly. So are you.
Yes. So I'll stay if you stay.
Oh, you're going to hook me into this one, aren't you?
That's the idea, yeah.
All right, well, we'll put it on the agenda for a future meeting.
For a future boxing match?
Yeah, so I mean, regardless, we're gonna have at least one slot to fill. We should try to get probably, if we can get more people as either another fill or, associate members, etc. But it's something we need to talk about, definitely.
All right, now I'm ready to vote to
Go
adjourn.
ahead.
All right, all in favor?
Christina
Dave
Schenk,
Wanker, aye.
Nick Tenson, aye.
Christina Schenk Hargrove, aye.
Good.
And John Prulidge, aye. We are adjourned.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care.